What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the SuperScope podcast, your wrap up in this week's biggest gaming stories, leaks, and rumors. We're back for episode 39, almost 40 episodes, on Sunday, July 24th. I'm sorry, July 31st. I am your host, Retro Game Dude, and of course, joining me as always is my co-host, Daisuke Aurora of Phoenix Aurora Gaming. Feel free to join in the discussion live on Twitch and Discord, or if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you tap the like and subscribe button. It helps us out a ton. And make sure you go over to Spotify and Google Podcasts and Stitcher and follow us on there. That helps us tremendously with the Anchor program through Spotify. So please do that when you can. Thanks, Aurora. How the hell are you this week?
Doing good. Just admiring your background. You have the Game Boy Color version of Crossfire.
I do.
You got caught up in it.
We did.
Oh my god.
We did. Oh man. I'm not feeling the best this week. It feels like I'm getting like the pre-sick feeling.
Yeah.
Getting a lot in the back of my throat, and it kind of sucks. I had to take a nap earlier just because I just felt drained after writing this podcast. Not that the podcast writing is draining, it's just that I just felt terrible. So that's where I am right now. So let's talk about the state of the stream.
Yeah. I keep telling you, man, like, I appreciate the effort with writing the podcast, but you don't have to write the entire thing in ASCII. Like, you can use WordPad or something.
WordPad.
I get it. You know, you do what works, but
I'm old school, man. I write it in binary and just copy and paste it into a binary translator. It's
Like
a
doing
pain in
like
the
the
ass, but
alt
it's worth it.
keys, like where you hold like alt and you hit some number keys and it
Yeah.
does like symbols and stuff. You're like
Oh yeah.
finding letters that way.
That's how I do all my bullet
Oh man.
points on Google Docs. Is there an easier way to do it?
Man, I used to know. There's one I always used to use. I think it's like Alt 121 is like the paragraph symbol. I don't remember why I know that one.
I don't know.
It's like the double S. For some reason, that one was like one that
Ooh.
I learned and then never like put it down.
Well, Google Docs does not work with that. That's for sure. I just tried it
Oh,
and it was like,
the
no.
the plus minus.
Mhm.
I think it's Alt 21 or something.
Oh, gotcha.
Nope, Alt 21's the paragraph one. I used to know the plus minus because I used it in college for like math programs where they'd be like, yeah, show me this thing, and the answer was like plus or minus a number because it wasn't an absolute value,
Hmm.
and like it'd be like which 2 points intersect, and it would be the same thing,
Sure.
and like they were like, yeah, the correct answer is plus or minus that, and I'm like, okay, but you guys have the little thing of symbols I can pick from, and plus minus isn't there, and they're like, yep, and I'm like, okay, and then like no matter what you put, it wouldn't be it'd be the wrong answer unless you alt keyed in the plus minus thing.
Right.
I was like, okay, cool, love it, great system, no notes.
Gotta love it. Notes.
Oh man.
Oh man. So we had a Jackbox stream last night. We had a good time, I think.
Oh yeah.
We had a really good turnout. We were packing the room the whole night, man. It was really good. So the Jackbox post COVID is ticking back off. Claire's back. She says, "Hi guys, happy Sunday. Sorry I'm late to the party. You're always on time. There's no such thing as late. Murdering people in Mario Kart. Nice. Love it. She is
Sure.
ruthless in Mario Kart. She'll get you. And then she does stuff and she'll say it like as sweet as possible. Like some people just aren't that good. Like she'll just shit on your heart. I love it.
Right. It's wild.
Um so we did Stray on Tuesday and Wednesday. It was my first Tuesday and Wednesday stream since post COVID. I think
Hmm.
it was a really good game. Holy shit, it's so good. If you have not played it yet, I recommend going and playing it as soon as you possibly can. Definitely a great game. I'm hoping that for some kind of a sequel in the future, and or something in that same vein. But yeah, I can't speak enough for it. The world building was great. So much polish for an indie game that we don't
Yeah.
even see with like AAA titles anymore. Um,
Yeah. Absolutely.
so yeah, I can't speak enough good about that game. I just recommend going to playing it. If you have PlayStation Plus, no excuse, go play it. And if you have Steam, go buy it on Steam. Support the company.
Yeah, absolutely. I caught your Tuesday stream, not the Wednesday.
Hmm.
And the like it's a good way to put it. It was very like crisp and clean in like execution. You never really had
Yes.
these like weird physics problems, like bumping into things. Didn't feel like you never had these weird issues. Like even and for a game, it'd be one thing if it was just a game where you're walking around, but like you're a cat and you can bump into objects and knock things over, and it all interacted perfectly. It was like
Hmm.
seamless. You never had these weird bouncy physics happening or objects clipping or anything. And like you said, I mean, that studio was like it started as two people, and I don't think they ever broke double digits. I'm not
Right.
pretty sure they only got like 4 or 5 new people when they picked up funding. And their funding was Annapurna Interactive, who at the time in 2016 was also nobody.
Hmm.
They didn't have any titles published yet. So this was, a studio of two people getting funded by a publisher that no one had ever heard of, and maybe growing their team to like a half a dozen or 8, 9 people or something.
Right.
So
It
tremendous work, well done for those people.
it really makes you
Um,
think like the games that come out with AAA studios that have hundreds or even a thousand people on their teams and the
oh yeah,
result that you get. Um, makes you question like what do these studios do? Because like if you can see the polish and the vision and the execution on these smaller games, it's like what are these big studios doing when they're releasing just these unfinished skeletons of games? It's
oh
insane.
yeah, absolutely. It was I was reading up about this about Stray, so we could talk about it today. And one thing I thought was really cool was um, the original scope for the game was much larger
Hmm.
and much grander, and they scoped in, they dialed in the scope, and they brought in the scale of the game as they got funding and realized how big their team would actually be
Sure.
and what timing windows they wanted. They actually successfully scaled that game down and scoped it all the way down to where they have it now. And I feel like that's 80% of the problem with a lot of games these days. We talk about things like Cyberpunk, or I mean, almost any AAA studio has this problem to an extent, and it comes down to how good you handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Scoping and scaling is a massive problem for the video game industry. Like, there's even a phrase in the industry for called scope creep, which is where like you keep adding to a project
Oh,
and
yeah, we talked about
pushing
it
it down the
before.
line and adding more money and adding more time and needing more resources. And scope creep causes a game that to end up in development hell. They end up just
Mm-hmm.
taking forever on the game because they keep trying to add. What if we add this mechanic? What if we add this new level? What if we add this thing? What if we do options here? What if we? And it sounds so easy on paper to be like, what if we make 3 pathways at this point in the game instead of 1, like a branching decision?
Mm-hmm.
But that has impacts on the mechanics. It has impacts on the encounters you have, the story.
Sure.
You have to redo dialogue. You have to redo assets. You have to make new areas. Maybe you have to
Mm-hmm.
can do bug testing for like how does the game handle when did you miss a flag that was in that path that you didn't put in the other 2 paths and now there's a missing flag and something breaks. Like it sounds so easy on paper to be like, what if we had a second route here that connects back later? But it takes you 8 seconds to do that and 8 months
Right.
to make it.
Well, that's why you'll see
So
a
it's
lot of games
cool to
that
see
give you like
that.
the illusion of choice,
Yeah,
with like branching storylines, but then they all reconverge into like just one ending, and people complain
yeah,
about that a lot. It's
absolutely.
like, well, they have to give you that illusion because building out that world is just not
Yeah, it
realistic.
would take forever to do.
But
Or I mean, if you have the team for it and you have the time for it, great, do
sure.
that. But a lot of games, the 2 problems are, one, a lot of people don't have that time or money, or the resources or the assets. And then the other problem that happens a lot of the time with that is they don't have. It's not. It's a good way to put this. It doesn't really fit the scope or like theme of the game. Like, it's not necessary to do it. They'll take it. It's almost like shoehorning, right? They'll
Hmm.
just be like, "Hey, you know what? What if we added, this mechanic because people like this mechanic?" And it's like, does your game need that mechanic? Are you using that mechanic to tell the story? Are you using that mechanic to immerse the player? Does it do anything in your game other than be popular with other games right now?
Hmm.
Like crafting. How many times do you see video games where it's like, this game does this, that, this, that, this, that, oh, and then crafting. And the crafting is like 2 things combined to make 1 thing, and you only craft 3 things throughout the game. And it's just a random, like, inserted, like, oh yeah, you craft. You can also craft. And it's like, okay, but I'm never looking for this stuff. You
Right.
guys, they don't hide this stuff anywhere. So there's no reason for me to search and explore for these items to craft. There's no cool recipes to craft. It's literally just like health kits, grenades, and ammo.
Hmm.
So, like, what am I even doing? Why don't you just let me buy ammo, health kits, and grenades from the vendor and cut out the middleman of me, like, finding 2 random items in the wild that drop from enemies and then having twice my inventory filled with these items while I'm waiting to craft them.
You turn
And
like
then the
half the
end
game is
result is
just
I just get
inventory
ammo.
management. Then it's like,
Yeah, it's like if the game just turns into ammo. Like, it's just ammo. Just give me ammo.
right.
Like, it'd be one thing if it's like, you know, a deep system where like I can get gunpowder and make a bunch of ammos, and I can also make different explosives, and I can also make other things with it, like medicines. Sure, then you've got an immersive crafting thing. But if your game doesn't have that as a core mechanic or theme or feature, why am I crafting?
Hmm.
If I'm in if I'm in the future, in like a cyber shooter game, way out in the future, why am I crafting bullets with like Chinese, like ancient Chinese, like gunpowder in a pile
Right.
and the horn thing, and I like shove it into the thing, and it's like, yeah, you crafted a bullet, and I'm like, dude, I live in the game takes place in 2200. Like,
Right.
why can't
Why
I just 3D print
survival
bullets? I can do that
mechanics
today.
don't need
Why
to be in
would I
every
need to
game?
do this
Right.
200 years from now? Yeah, it's like, so a lot of games suffer from this sort of shoehorning,
Hmm. Well, we
and
saw it with
Stray
Star
had
Citizen,
none of
like
it,
the
as far as I
goddamn
can see.
bed physics, bed
The
sheet
bed,
physics.
the bed sheet
Like they
physics.
announced this, and they're like, everyone's just like, all right, are you ever going to release a final version of this game? Because this is ridiculous now.
Hey, listen, I will not touch a AAA game if it doesn't have bedsheet physics, okay? It's a breaking point for me. No, but that's exactly a good example of that. It's like, who asked for this? Who are you helping with this? Is this helping the game? Like go back and look at like the Mega Man games. The Mega Man games were good, right?
Hmm.
Imagine if like in Mega Man 2 there was like you played Mega Man 2 and you got like through 4 Robot Masters, and then they were like, "Hang on, you have to do this thing." And this thing in the middle was like playing like a Dr. Mario style mini game, and then you beat it, and they were like, "Here's a 1-up," and then you went and did the other 4 Robot Masters. You would be like, "Why was that there?
Right.
Why did I do that? Like, did you guys just develop a cool Doctor Robotnik Bean Machine game and be like, we need to get it in there somewhere? Like, for what?" So yeah, and it breaks the immersion, right? Because you're like fighting Robot Masters and saving the world from these Robot Masters, and then you're like, we had to stop to play Bean Machine. Like, What?
Well, think about like how
Yeah,
much better Breath of the Wild would have been without maybe not like all the crafting, but like having it some of it dialed back. The amount of food that you can craft is
yeah.
obscene. The
I
weapon stuff I never got behind. Like I love the game, but like traditionally the whole point of like Zelda was you find the Master Sword, then you just use that for the rest of the game. That's like the peak weapon. You don't have to worry about weapons anymore. But in Breath of
yeah,
the Wild, you find it, but it doesn't really work all that well until you're into the Ganon's castle, and it's like, why? It feels
yeah.
so bad.
That was a that was one of those things where like they definitely had a gameplay. So that was like one of those like sort of reverse situations where like they had a gameplay mechanic they wanted. They
Hmm.
wanted to make different situations where different weapons felt better, and that they wanted to encourage you to switch weapons and use different weapons and stuff. And they botched it because by making them break, people hoarded them and didn't use them for anything. I think by the time I got to the end of Breath of the Wild, I had like two of each sword of
Yeah, it's
element types,
the elixir
so that I
dilemma,
had them in case. It's the
right?
elixir dilemma, exactly. And you had this problem in Breath of the Wild with that, where like breaking weapons didn't feel good. Being forced to switch out to weapons you didn't want to have to use felt like you were like burning resources. Nothing about that felt good.
No.
And I understand why they did it because it facilitates the changing of weapons, and they were trying to force that. But that is not the way to do it. Well, you could do it through gameplay mechanics. You could have enemies that just straight up won't get hit by a longsword. They'll block it every time, and you need
Hmm.
a heavy weapon to get through their guard. Or a flying enemy who's out of reach of the melee weapons, so you have to use the boomerang style weapons. Like there was gameplay mechanics that could have solved that problem with weapon switching, where like weapon, only certain types. You could even do like almost like a weapon wheel, like
Hmm.
this weapon beats that weapon, beats that weapon, beats that weapon, A, B, C, D, etc.
Sure, rock paper scissors kind of
And
thing.
players would learn that. Yeah, players
Hmm.
would learn that and be like, okay, I see this dude's got a battle axe. The only way I beat this guy is if I hit him with the long sword. If I use the axe, he'll block me on it. He'll parry me. And if I use like a great sword, he'll just block that too. Like you could make a mechanic where that would happen, and players would react accordingly. And we've seen that in Zelda games, and even in the Zelda games with the Wiimotes, they had enemies where like they'd use rotted shields with holes in it, and you had to hit the holes. Or like monsters would have specific parts of their shell would have a line shape, and you could cut into that line shape.
Hmm.
So obviously, the developers at Zelda understand how to make the mechanics dictate the pace of like combat. But for some reason, I almost wonder if it was a crunch thing and they phoned it in at the last minute, this
It's
breaking mechanic, because
possible.
while it does solve the problem of weapon switching, everything else about it feels bad, and it makes for a horrible experience.
Well, it'll be interesting to
I
see
Yeah,
what happens with Breath of the Wild 2 when that comes out and see what kind of polish they add to that system, or if they completely
right.
scrap it for a completely different system to begin with. I think
Yeah, I
just
have
that
to imagine
retrospective will
that.
answer a lot of questions.
Yeah, I have to imagine the brake system has to go. There was the
Yeah,
only thing people hated about that game.
right.
Like to this day, if you ask people what was bad about Breath of the Wild, well, the two things about Breath of the Wild people disliked was the braking system, and then the world was very big but also very empty at times.
Hmm.
And collecting Koroks was stupid because once you got past a certain number of Koroks, you could collect another 600 and you'd get like literally poop for it,
Right.
actual poop. So
Literally.
like,
Yeah. Cool.
okay, come on. So there's improvements to be made, but I think like I don't know. It's weird to watch Breath of the Wild happen, and then around like a similar time frame, watch like Link Between Worlds happen. And Link Between Worlds is so well done
Yeah, it
mechanically,
is.
and the combat. Like, dude, there's one boss where you stick to his shield, and
Hmm.
he loses track of you, and he spins around looking for you, and then you can attack him. Brilliant stuff, dude. Like, it really makes the mechanics of the game become super immersive.
Hmm.
Not just like, yeah, I can go on the wall to hide from this guy, but like, no, you can actually do cool things and unique things with him, and
Very.
you're rewarded for being clever.
Hmm.
And Breath of the Wild just didn't really have that in their combat. Maybe in the exploring and shrines and stuff, some of it, or in the puzzles of solving the actual big animal things. But like the combat for that game was kind of phoned in, brain dead Skyrim combat, right? You swing swords at dudes, you get different things to swing at dudes. Like I don't know, it felt like the only really immersive experiences were like Guardian fights and Lionel fights, and
Yeah.
other than that, everything else was just like swing thing at thing until it falls over. So
No doubt.
and like the Guardian fights had a bit of that because the Guardian fights had like they would use weapons of like different types like the axe and the sword, and what they were using changed how they fought you.
Hmm.
So you had to adapt, but they didn't go far enough to make it so like only certain weapons of yours would be useful in those situations. You could still just whip out anything and smash them with it. You didn't have this like I need to use a certain weapon or anything. So there was room for improvement for sure.
Big time.
Um, no, I we'll see what Breath of the Wild 2 looks like. Um, yeah, scope creep bad.
Scope creep bad indeed.
Try to loop it back to where we were.
That's cool. All right. So the schedule this week, I'm gonna try and do a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Obviously, it's always going to be set to demand on Tuesday.
Mhm.
So hopefully, people in my Discord and my team show up so we can actually do another one. There's always interest, but then there's just the show up thing is always a thing. Um,
Yeah,
any streamer out there that does like stuff like multiplayer, no, it's like herding cats. So it's uh,
absolutely.
so Wednesday, possibly if all the parts come in, I do have a Game Boy Color I'll be modding. It's actually Claire's Game Boy Color, so we're going to be putting that to the test with some screen mods and a couple of other mods I haven't done yet on a Game Boy Color. So make sure you tune into that. That will definitely be going up on my YouTube as well as a tutorial. I have a couple other YouTubes that videos up there for like controller repair and stuff like that. So make sure you check that out.
This is that one you sent me. You told me not to tell her. You got that Moth Girl shell, right?
Moth Girl Shell, yeah, yeah.
Entire like it's literally like twice the size of the original Game Boy now, right?
It
Is what you're
is.
saying?
Yeah, yeah.
It's yeah. Yep.
I had to 3D print the shell because it's literally like this big.
She's
Woo,
excited. She's like, yeah. Oh my god.
Love it. What the hell am I playing this week?
Dream
Besides
come
Final
true.
Fantasy 14, I don't think I'm playing anything else. I did get Xenoblade 3. I did not get to play it yet. I was going to try and play a little bit of it today, but not feeling well kind of hindered that. So maybe I'll try and play a little bit of it tomorrow. I still have a couple things I have to do around the house for stuff I bought on Amazon Prime Day. A couple projects there. So I did get some new 3D filament. I'm going to be printing a couple things, and I'd probably be doing some live streaming of that on TikTok. I have to find a dedicated device I can stream on TikTok, so I'm not using up my phone.
Mhm.
So I'll be doing that. So speaking of TikTok, if you look for my social media accounts, obviously if you're here, you know Retro Game Dude on Twitch, but also TikTok, and then you can find me at Game Dude Retro on Twitter. I'm not really doing Instagram anymore because Instagram kind of sucks as a platform. There's no point in using it. It's
Yeah,
fun
you've
to
been talking about that.
absolute shit. So
It's TikTok too, except for you didn't need
yeah,
it to. But
except that you actually have um, some recourse as to what you want to watch on TikTok. But
yeah, and
like we were talking
engagement too.
before,
Yeah,
like Instagram is like for content I want to see specifically, where TikTok's more of a discovery platform, and I'm there for
right.
two different reasons. I just
Yeah,
it's hard to gain traction on that platform anymore. It's not worth investing my time in, so I'm not even gonna worry about talking about Instagram anymore.
Mhm.
So that's where we're at with that. Quick word from our sponsors. handheldlegend.com. If you're looking to do game mods like I am, especially with the Game Boy Color or a Neo Geo Pocket Color, putting in like backlit screens, if you're looking for stands, new shells, different color buttons, all kinds of accessories, head on over to handheldlegend.com. You can use handheldlegend.com/retrogamedude or retrogamedude at the checkout to get $10 off your first order. You get some help on that, and I get a little bit of a taste of that as well. And that obviously helps fund the channel. So please do that. That's cool. We'd appreciate it. So, all right. Let's get into some quick headlines. We have PlayStation Plus Essentials games for August 22 announced. Let's take a look here what we have. So we have Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, Yakuza Like a Dragon, and Little Nightmares. That's a pretty banger lineup, and I don't think we've seen
oh yeah,
I don't think we've seen a lineup like that for the PlayStation monthly games in quite a minute. I definitely have Tony Hawk on the top of my list there. That's something I've been meaning to get around to play. I'll definitely be checking that out. So if you need me, I'll be in the Chicago warehouse listening to Goldfinger.
yeah. I was gonna say, how do you not listen to Goldfinger in that game? It's so good.
Absolutely. I thought that game did more in my youth for music discovery than MTV did in 20 years.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Dude, that was
so
like the only reason I learned what the ska genre was because of that
right,
game. I was like, what am I listening to?
exactly. All right.
I had
Uh,
heard 99 Red Balloons before though.
Indeed.
I
That's
think it was
dude. They're so good. They're so good.
they played it they played that song in Rocket Power the movie. That's why I knew it.
Rocket Power the movie? What the hell is that?
That's the thing. You don't remember the show Rocket Power?
No? Should I?
Um, yeah, it was a Nickelodeon show. It was there's a bit of an age gap between us, and it might
There
have been on
is.
my way out of the
Yeah.
the demographic for that show. It was a Nickelodeon show about like these four kids that lived on like a beach area, and they were all surfers and skateboarders and like dude bros. And
Okay, I kind of. This is like uh, it's like what exports kind of stuff.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. They did a bunch of different. They were all sports kids. They did all kinds of different sports, and they made a movie at one point. And they used 99 red balloons in it. Yeah,
Fuck yeah.
so that was cool.
That's great. All right, some more quick headlines here. The creator of Disco Elysium is looking for artists with a love of sci-fi and space, and I'll tell you, this headline got me a little aroused. I'm not gonna lie. Disco Elysium being one of the best games I've ever played, and then the inclusion of like having something like that play in a sci-fi universe. Oh God, I'm there for it so hard. If that's what she said.
So, disclosure: I didn't play Disco Elysium yet.
That's all right. You
However,
still have time.
I was watching someone talking about it the other day, and like, it was the wildest story. They were like, "So you've played the game, so you may know what this is about."
Mhm.
And I guess mild spoilers for Disco Elysium, but to be fair, I'm pretty sure it's not really plot relevant. It's just a thing that happens near the beginning of the
Sure.
game. You can you can die like immediately in that game.
Mhm.
Like trying to get like your tie off the fan, you can just die.
Yeah.
There's a part where you have to sit in a chair and talk to a guy,
Mhm.
and there's a check to see if you're like wrong enough to sit in the chair without getting hurt by it. And if you fail the check, then it does like a damage check. And if you fail the damage check, it does 1 point of damage. And if you're in a bad position going into that room, you get stuck in a situation where you have to sit in the chair, and the chair will hurt, and the hurt will kill, and you will have died from sitting in a chair.
I will say there is a
That's
lot
too
of saving and
uncomfortable.
reloading in that game.
So I'm reading stories about it, and people were like, "Yeah, one time I was in like a hotel lobby, and the guy told me I owed him a bill, and my options were to like try to leave or pay the bill, and I picked try to leave, and I critical failed. And my dude sprints away from the front desk, jumps at the last second, turns, and flips double middle fingers at the guy at the front desk, and I slammed into a girl in a wheelchair and died. And I was like, "What is this game?"
I love it.
Sounds like a trip. I'll definitely have to check it out.
That's great, man. Yeah, I'm
Yep.
excited for whatever this is. I don't know if this is going to be a direct sequel. I have a hard time believing it would be, but I would anything out of this universe that's or anything that's relative as far as gameplay and story building as Disc Elysium, I'm there for it. And when you say sci-fi, oh boy, yeah.
Absolutely. Sorry, I don't want to train wreck the stream, but my wife is making funny faces at me about wanting to go behind my camera to grab something. There you go. She just did the face wrap.
Don't worry, we're not going to clip it.
Clip, 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 clip.
Nice.
No, yeah, good stuff. I've seen like a couple people talk about it before, and you've talked about it, and it just
Mhm.
I didn't realize how chaotically D&D like oriented it is.
Oh yeah.
That's wild.
It's almost exclusively like everything is like dice roll checks in that game, and I love it.
Yeah, it's
But
great.
like I said, there is a lot of stuff where it's like, okay, I need this to be successful. Some stuff is like, I don't care, but there's some stuff it's like, okay, I'm gonna save it right here because I need this.
Yeah,
I need this jacket, or I need something. I need this, and it'll take a couple
yeah,
times to get it. But yeah, it's so fun. I can't recommend that game enough.
yeah. It sounds like it kind of sounds like Fallout's like discussion progression system, but like on
Hmm.
steroids. Because like
Sure.
all the action's built on that too. Normally in Fallout, it's like the way you talk to people changes, maybe some settings or some like situations or like how people are attached to you and like the relationships you have. But like in Disco Elysium, it's just straight up like your dice rolls can turn into like whole sequences of action.
Hmm.
That's crazy. Good stuff.
Oh yeah. All right. We have Microsoft. This is a wild one. But there is context. Microsoft defends Activision Blizzard's acquisition, claims studio makes no must-have games. Whew. I mean, they're saying the quiet part out loud, but I mean, are they
Yeah,
wrong?
we knew that.
Yeah,
That well,
it's
because we knew when we talked about this acquisition, when people compared it to Sony snapping up Bungie, and we were like, Bungie makes one really successful IP and has several IPs
right.
on the way. Activision Blizzard King, like they have passive success with things like Candy Crush that used to be hot and are just kind of cruising,
Hmm.
and they have plenty of franchises like that, but like they don't have a killer software right now. They
Sure.
don't.
Well, we
I
have.
mean, maybe down the line, but
That's the thing. It's like Microsoft knows they have a huge back catalog that they don't touch.
yeah.
They
Yep,
have
absolutely.
all hands on deck for Call of Duty releases. The last one stumbled. World of
Yeah,
Warcraft is always in a state of chaos. They're not really
yeah,
onboarding new players. That even now, even with like fixing the game, they're having a hard time bringing players back.
sure.
And then Candy Crush. So I mean, those three games make up 82% of Blizzard's net revenue. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
so, like we've discussed before too, Microsoft has a knack for buying studios that are past their prime. Um, and it's almost every studio that they have releasing games right now is studios that they bought up past their prime. Um,
Yep.
with the exception of like maybe Mojang, but what is Mojang doing besides Minecraft shit? So,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and to be fair, it feels like that pretty much built itself up from the ground ahead of time, and they
mhm,
just happen to have a good relationship with them or something.
right.
They definitely didn't scoop it when it was doing bad or anything. They just happened to scoop it.
Exactly,
But
exactly. That's where I think like they're like the one outlier. Where, I mean, you look at Bethesda, like they kind of peaked with like Skyrim. Fallout 76 did not do numbers, and
hmm
we all know the controversies behind that. And there's
sure.
other studios too that they've bought up where it's just like, okay, well they haven't done anything, and they're not doing anything now either. So it just seems to
Right.
be their way of doing business. And I don't know if they've even been accused of like purposely devaluing Activision stock before making an offer. So
Yeah, it's as easy as making a public statement about
all the
what they're
accusations and
doing or what's
stuff that,
happening or something.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, because they were one. I think they were the first one to come out when the news came out about Activision when it broke. They were the first one to come out and be like, "This is terrible."
Hmm.
And then Sony did it, and Nintendo did it. I don't remember which one did second and third, but they both followed like the same day or the next day or
Right.
whatever. But like you said very well, Xbox could have been like, "Hey, if we go out there and say like this is unacceptable, do they dip? And if they dip, do we scoop?"
Right.
Like, so who knows? I mean, obviously, I'd like to think that's not the case, but
Right.
business is gonna business. So
Sure is. So speaking of Activision, we also have another headline with them. They apparently stole some art from a indie artist for Call of Duty Vanguard. Again, we are just talking about how great Vanguard's doing right now. So we have a graphic of this here. The left here is the original artwork, and then this is the product that they have on their play page or platform or whatever. With I guess like cosmetics you can buy for your character. And like, the artist even went through great lengths to kind of point out the very dead on similarities here. I mean
yeah,
it's a verbatim ripoff with like maybe some change in the pants, but still like it's still crumpled pants, but like there's a loop over the shoulder.
yeah,
The
too
patches
much
tying the
specific.
yeah, it's just like the
Yeah.
pouch on the side. It's a joke. Like I just like this is a $1 billion studio, and again, once again, like these studios have to resort to theft of other people's intellectual property to turn a profit, and this is the first time they've been caught. Um,
Yeah, I'd like to see maybe like in a few days down the road. I'd like to see who exactly gets pinned on this one because I've seen
mhm,
things like this happen before with like Sony, where like Sony used like a stolen like footage reel of that someone animated for
right.
like one of their big summer project like summer presentations, and it turned out one of their artists just straight up ripped it, and they did not catch that it was ripped
Yeah.
until it went online. So this could easily be some dude in house at Activision just
Sure.
plagiarized, and they didn't have any clue when they put it out. And
Right.
if that's the case, that's but I mean either way it sucks. But yeah, no, unfortunately yeah we've seen this too many times to
Right.
like not like to blame Activision, but like the people who work for these studios should know better than to do this because every time this happens, the internet finds out. It doesn't just get buried
Exactly.
or like
Exactly.
every time this happens, it goes viral. People are like, yeah, this is definitely this guy's thing, and then. I mean, yeah, even that because I don't remember. I'll have to look up real quick. That PlayStation one was notorious
Hmm.
because it wasn't just an image; it was like a whole animation reel of like things running around and fighting and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and it was bad. It was like a summer game show or something.
Wow, that's really bad.
And it was like one of those videos that they play like in the opening set, like to lead into it or
Sure.
something. And it was one particular animator. I think it was like Kevin Bao. He literally just pulled 3 or 4 chunks of it all in a row and was like, "I'm using all these," and just figured nobody would like notice. Like, what do you mean nobody would notice? Like,
Right.
oh man. Let me see. If you want to look at it, I will throw you the link. I believe this is it. Um, and by this is it, I mean I clicked the person's Twitter profile and not the tweet, which is a bad call. Oh man, nothing like clicking the profile of the person who posted about something like 2 years ago and then being like 2 years later. Great way to find content.
2 years
Here,
later.
yeah, here, check this out.
Oh,
Give you a little refresh on what happened here. Which one are you? You're this one.
which one am I?
To be fair, the top like 4 out of 6 messages in my Discord are also you, but
To
with
be
people.
fair,
It's you plus someone.
let's bring it up. Can we play this without the MCA?
You could mute it. I mean, it's the
Okay,
animation that matters.
fair. Okay.
The visuals are what we'd be looking at. Everything else is, the music doesn't matter. But it like there's a good 30 seconds here of just blatantly copied.
Okay.
At,
Yeah.
at some points, even frame copied, like
All right.
traced almost.
Let's bring it
And
up
you can
here.
see like so if you look at the video from the beginning, in the very beginning you've got Steven Universe, the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got Fooly Cooly, the show we talked about.
Right.
And then you've got this thing called Last Word that this guy Oleg, whoever did. You've got goblins. You've got more goblins. Different cuts they've made. It's very clearly he made a 30-second video that's completely from front to back ripped from other people's work. None of it was original. Like
Oh my
zero of
god,
it
dude.
was
It's
original.
almost like all rotoscoped.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's what I meant by like traced. Is like he literally like redrew it and kept exactly the way that it was.
Oh, that's fucking terrible. I'm glad he got called
And
out
yeah,
on it.
it was the
He
winter mix of 2019. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild though because it's like it's such a he was like probably like, oh, I'm just gonna mix up all these different animations and like no one's even gonna notice because it's
Hmm.
bits and pieces of different stuff, and yet he failed.
Well, I think his problem initially, if I remember right, his problem was that first bit from
Mm-hmm.
Steven Universe. A
It was
lot
so
of people
recognizable.
recognized
Sure,
that because it was a very recent thing, and that's what made people start looking at it.
that's
And
wild.
then that's when someone else was like, "Oh, that's from Fooly Cooly," and then someone else was like, "Hey, this is my actual work. Holy shit!" Like, and then it went off. That guy, I think, is where it went viral because he was the original creator of one of the chunks that got like stolen.
Wow.
So he had a legit gripe to have,
He had a platform to call him out, which has probably helped
right?
accelerate this. Man,
Yep. So yeah, dude, it's wild to look
what's
at
this
it, but
guy up
like,
to these days?
oh, I have no idea. He probably works at Ubisoft in the back room or something. I don't know. Not to like shit on Ubisoft in particular, just that was just the name of a big company. He's probably
Sure,
somewhere. I doubt that he's out of the industry.
right.
These people, it's like the same thing
If
to do
there's
with
any
like
company
issue
that
like,
would pick him up, it would be Ubisoft.
well, I mean, this is one of those things where like they shuffle people around. Oh, we suspended him or we fired him. He goes
Hmm.
quiet for 6 months. He quietly gets hired at a firm where he maybe takes a pay cut, but he's still making pretty good money doing what he's doing, and then he just keeps
Sure.
doing what he's doing. Not stealing art, but like hopefully learned his lesson.
Right, right.
But yeah.
All right, so I guess this week we're talking about we've talked about Stadia in a while. Killed by Google is a very big critic of Google products and stuff. Posted a I would say unsubstantiated claim at least. It's not going to show up here well. Let's see if I can back this out. So, needless to say, I'm just going to hide it. It's not going to show up well. Just a heads up, old coworker and friend of mine is now one of the regional managers for Google. Is regional manager a term at Google? That doesn't even sound like a thing.
Regional manager? That sounds like a
It's a retail
sales
thing, right?
term. Yeah, a retail
Um,
thing.
they had a pretty large employee retail seminar. Again, strange. In
Yeah.
California this past weekend. And long story short, Google is beginning their exit plan. They did not have an exact date at the end of the service. Blah 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 blah. So they said that they're not going to do anything similar to like Google Play Music, where they kind of put it into YouTube Music. There are a few other details, but nothing too groundbreaking. mentioned that all members would be informed that 30 to 60 days before. So Google basically came out and said, no, we're not canceling it, or not canceling Stadia. So they don't have to really. No one has to. All 4 Stadia users left. They don't have to worry about this. As much as I hate shitting on Stadia, because I think had they marketed this right, this would have been some groundbreaking shit. Because it still runs circles around anything Xbox is doing as far as streaming.
Oh yeah, the cloud. Yeah,
The
absolutely.
performance is still just it's there, and Xbox can't keep up with it. The
Right.
only thing that really kind of got me was like that doesn't really hold water here is like Google announced that Stadia was going to transition to backbone and other technology. So they said they're going to keep their platform because even if they put no new games on here, it doesn't matter. They're still going to use this platform and technology for other stuff, be it
Mhm.
for Xbox, for Sony, or whatever other streaming stuff that companies want to use. I think there was some interest even from SquareSoft for streaming and stuff,
Yeah.
and Nintendo. Um, so the technology's there. There's no reason to pull all this stuff offline. Like they said, they're going to pivot this technology more towards a backbone commercial use. Um,
Mhm.
so I think they would they get themselves into hot water, especially like people buying games, spending real money on games, and
Yeah.
like
Just losing them.
now they have like an issue where it's like, okay, there are people here that have licenses to and reason to play these games, and they're owed the game at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's like an accelerated version of like hardware rust, like right, where
mhm,
like the Wii U shop eventually goes offline and you can't play Wii U games anymore after like 15 years. But like this is
right.
accelerated compared to that. Like,
Hmm.
um, I almost wonder if this was like a rumor that the dude heard and then he just substantiated it by making up a thing.
There's just so much there that doesn't hold any water. Like the retail manager or the regional manager thing, the retail sales thing. It's like those are the last people that are making any decisions at Google. So
Yeah, that's so like it's so weird. Like I could see, I guess, the regional thing being maybe like service regions
right.
or something, but like the other part about that, about the conference thing and the meeting thing, is like that's very much like I don't know what you do with that. That seems like I'm not even sure why they would have that meeting. What would they even do? I don't know.
Right. I don't know.
Google, what is that? The Google Internet service they do?
Um,
Is that all it was?
Google Fi.
Yeah, Google
They
Fi.
have
Maybe they did Google Glass.
yeah. They
They're
have
like
their
I'm
own
meeting.
um shit. Yeah, they have their own fiber optic carriers in certain cities too.
Yeah.
They haven't really expanded that
Um,
much lately though either.
you had like boardroom B was like the Google Glass like room, and they just
Hmm.
had like one on the table, and they're like, "You guys remember this? This was cool." And it's like, okay, dismissed. Like,
Well, that's the funny thing is they still do Google Glass. There's a
do they really?
yes, it's more commercial focused.
Yeah.
I think it's more for I don't know if it's like for engineers or what, but yeah, you can actually still buy Google Glass. It's just you have to go through their um
All right, channels.
yeah.
That's
Um
so funny.
mhm.
Because like I remember like for like a brief period, it like tore up the internet of like this is the future. We're all gonna have these on. We're gonna have HUDs up at all time. We're gonna be like looking at each other's like health bars and shit. Like the military's going to use them for like scouting buildings and information. They're going to get satellite feeds sent in, and they're going to get like tactical information sent to it. And then like a few people were like, "Yeah, so I wore Google Glass around at some places, and it was weird." And then yeah, and then like it like never got mentioned again. It
Mhm.
was like okay, it just went away.
That's
That's
it
so
here.
funny,
It's the
huh?
Google Glass Enterprise Edition. So it's more or less geared towards business application.
Google Glass Enterprise.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I was always more of a fan of Google Glass Voyager myself.
Jesus Christ. This is such a sloppy setup I have here with this web browser thing. Let me back up the zoom a little bit. Yeah, so it's I guess like you could like put like training modules on it, but again, it's like a lot of it's for like engineer focused stuff. Um,
Training
it-
stuff, yeah.
that or you can like if you're doing like, this person like working on a car probably doing like a tear down on it or something like that. You can see like step by step instructions in real time. That's pretty
She's
cool
just
though.
using it for safety glasses. Like, that's it.
Yeah. There's
No,
video in
of
this thing.
course,
I didn't
obviously
even know
not.
that. They just gave them to me on my first day.
They power on. No, that's wild. But that was the thing. Was like even back in the day when it disappeared, it was kind of sad because like maybe in a social setting it was kind of too much at the time, or there was a lot to like worry about like personal space and privacy. You didn't want someone to doctor disrespect you in a bathroom with them.
Yeah.
And that's all he's getting on this one. But no, you didn't want like these sort of problems to crop up. But like you said, in a professional setting, you can do so much cool stuff with like the ability to have like blueprints and teardowns. Imagine you doing a teardown of like a Game Boy,
Hmm.
and you've got a schematic that you can just look and line up with the thing and be like, okay, this third one down is this one because you know, it'd be really cool.
Right.
It's cool to see that still doing something. Yeah,
Hmm.
for sure.
Next up, we have Valve. They are committing to fulfill all current Steam Deck reservations by the end of the year, which I guess is following up for their promise to double production this summer, which they have done.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I think we talked about this more towards the spring, but we're starting to see things electronics become more available again. We're seeing video
Yeah.
cards hit MSRP prices again. And we kind of addressed this where we'll say like, oh, it was kind of like on the horizon thing. It's like, oh, this will probably start coming, this will start coming down, and it is, and that's what we want to see. So,
Yeah.
for
Absolutely.
those who have been privileged enough to get the invite to order a Steam Deck, and you have ordered them, you should be able to see them this year at some point. So, I'm still waiting for my invite to buy one.
Right. Right.
Spent $5 on a ticket for that, so that's where I am with that. But yeah, hopefully someday we'll get that Steam Deck in hand that we can actually play it out and try it out, and maybe I'll do something with it on the channel. But
Yeah, I was thinking I'd like to get my hands on one at some point because I feel like it'd be a an easy alternative to like using my computer to stream video games would be to just stream on a Steam Deck because all the processing power would be right there in the device. I wouldn't have to worry about it running
yeah,
Discord and running like streaming service on my computer on top of
well,
the
that's
stuff I use to run the stream on top of the game I'm playing. Like,
sure. Well, that's
yeah,
a lot of streamers will do just that, but they'll have like a computer for playing on it, then they'll capture it into a second PC that's actually doing the stream.
oh yeah,
I don't have the
yeah,
space for it.
absolutely.
I wish I did, but um, the
Yeah,
direction
I'm
I'm
in the
going
same
with my
boat.
office, I have a 3D printer behind me. I have the PC. I have the PlayStation 5 retro game collection. It's like I need space. I want to get into doing some more creative stuff, but it's hard.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like when it comes time to stream games, like every once in a while when I stream a game off my Switch, it's like the nicest thing because I'm just like, oh yeah, it's totally on its own over there. I just
Right.
pop the Switch onto the dock and switch my HDMI over and call it a day.
Hmm.
Oh yeah,
All right. What do we have next here? Um, Xenoblade 3 came out this week, and it's doing numbers. Good to see it. Unfortunately, like I said, I haven't had a chance to play it yet. Um, but we did get some Metacritic scores here. Getting an 89 by critic reviews, 66 positive, 3 mixed, and a 7.9 user score. Overwhelmingly positive, 160 positive,
yeah, solid.
6 mixed, and 18 negative. I didn't really get to dig around in the 18 negative. I'll have to see if there's any legitimacy with those. I've seen a lot of like butthurt on Twitter with this game. I don't know why people get up their own ass about stuff. It's like just let the game be fun. There's no like
Yeah,
just a lot of like
I
console war
haven't
people,
seen
which
much.
I don't associate with and I can't stand. They're just,
Right.
oh, this game's only like 30 frames per second, blah 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 blah. This only did this. This only did this, and then it's like it doesn't matter. Like the game, like someone said, like, oh, Nintendo's living in the past, and it's like, well, they're living in the past, but somehow that managed to get them a Game of the Year contender, which I
Yeah,
fully expect to see this,
like
in the
not just
awards.
that, but like yearly, like well, it's like oh yeah, Nintendo's living in the past. And it's like everyone always says that every time, and then Nintendo goes on to like, with the exception of the Wii U, they haven't had a bad console performance in forever.
Right.
And that doesn't count handhelds and like the part of the market they have cornered. And like people are like, oh yeah, but you know it's Nintendo, it's like for kids. And it's like yeah, but you sit down, and you play Breath of the Wild, you play Mario Odyssey, you play stuff like Xenoblade. It's some of the best experiences you're gonna get in gaming, like hands down. I don't
Yeah.
care if you think that if you're not a fan of a genre or this or that or the other, like you can't. No, you're not gonna get photorealistic Last of Us remake
Hmm.
graphics. That's coming, but you'll get completely competent graphics. I mean, we've had this discussion before about like the Super Nintendo days where it was like, yeah, the N64 was better in the terms of it being 3D graphics, but Super Nintendo had hammered out how to make their stuff look perfect in what they had.
Sure.
And I would argue the Switch is, even at the Wii, they were getting there, and I'd argue the Switch is at that point now. You get games on the Switch that look gorgeous. and they don't have to look super photorealistic 3D. You get games like Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild that look fantastic for what they are.
Sure.
And it doesn't always have to be like one of my favorite games, like some of my favorite games, like Celeste, are not high fidelity graphical games, or Tunic, not a high graphic fidelity game. Never took me out of it, not once.
Mm-hmm.
Like
And Claire says
it is not
it's the
the
music and storytelling for me. Exactly. Like
yeah,
Xenoblade's
absolutely
fucking soundtrack. Holy shit, man.
yeah.
But here, let me see if I can bring this up without it being too sloppy. Um,
Other
oh god.
that too.
There we go. Okay, now we're cooking. All right, so whoever the hell this guy is, he goes, despite overall game being great and playable without hiccups, a sub 30 frames per second performing would have been slaughtered by journalists if this was on PlayStation with a 69 Metacritic score. Poor performance always gets a pass on Switch. And then someone made this rebuttal. OJ Player Residence. Calling out Bloodborne on PS4, the remake, runs at 30 frames per second with dips. Still universally praised, my dude. Go touch grass and stop being asshole online about over video games.
Dude, I played most of Bloodborne, and I can tell
Absolutely
you,
wrecked.
it absolutely caps at 30 on PlayStation, and it absolutely dips all the time.
Right.
So it's not that's not a valid criticism. I mean,
Not at all.
if it was breaking the immersion or problematic, that would be a thing, sure, but it's not. Like, I mean,
Right.
I can't speak for Xenoblade. I haven't played it, but we would have heard if everybody was having this problem or whatever.
Well, that's the
So
thing too. It's like people will put out subpar games on the Switch, and I always go back to look how big Xenoblade worlds are. They're massive.
yeah,
And it's like there's no excuse for other game companies to not be able to match that. If Xenoblade has pulled this off time and time again, there's no excuse. Like, oh, this world won't perform this way, this won't perform this way. Okay, adjust it,
right.
optimize it. It's doable. Xenogears has demonstrated that. No more excuses. So, let's move on here. Halo Infinite won't have matchmaking for campaign co-op. This does not come to a shock. A lot of people were kind of butthurt about this, but I doesn't come to a shock to me.
Yeah,
So that's we can't really expect Halo to do something new when they can't even do the things that they're known to do. So I'm sourcing this Polygon article, and they made this this strange comparison. As games get more complex, developers have to rely on third-party software to aid player problems. This has been happening in Destiny 2 for years. Now, that's the ironic thing is Destiny 2 has co-op matchmaking. It's a core component of the game. But then they go on to say where players use third-party tools like Discord to find raid members. Raids are a completely different animal. There is no matchmaking in that. Matchmaking in raids would be a dumpster fire, just because of the way that Destiny raids are set up. It's just you need to have the communication there, and you need to basically you have to have that. You have to have that cooperativeness there, or it's just not going to happen. Where something like just comparing that to something like Halo, who can't even get co-op off the ground, let alone a matchmaking co-op, it's just nuts to me. But Polygon be Polygon, I guess.
yeah. I'd like to point out Claire in the chat saying she really gave it a chance, but it was a disappointment. Like if you can't get Claire on board for a Halo game, then you've done something wrong.
Yeah. I mean, Claire and I put hours into Halos, man. Hours. That's where her and I met. For lack of better storytelling. But yeah, it's if you can't get the basic components of what Halo is known for, like the couch co-op or even online co-op multiplayer, expecting them to do the campaign matchmaking co-op, it's just never going to happen. I think that 343 Industries has demonstrated that. Even like just the basic, we're almost a year out of release, and it's still not done. The game is still not done to the vision that they wanted to release day one. And I don't know, for the expectation for them to have just like matchmaking co-op, just it's never going to happen.
Yeah, I to this day don't understand how they walked back every Halo game having features every time, less and less, and then they were like, oh yeah, well, like I mean, we've done this run around
I
plenty
know.
of times, but like you launched this game with no Forge, no co-op of any kind, couch or online, no story even, because when it came out, it was just the online multiplayer part. And then on top of
Yep.
everything, they're like, okay, here's the rest of the game, and by rest of the game we mean another chunk of the game, but still no Forge, still no co-op, still no couch or online co-op,
Hmm.
none of that other stuff. None of them, like, we're still missing modes that you guys wanted. I remember for a while they didn't even have Slayer, which was like,
Right.
what? The game mode is unique to Halo. It was
Yeah.
made for Halo, from Halo. Like, it's a Halo game mode. It's a deathmatch mode, so it's normal. But
Hmm.
like, how do you not have Slayer? It's like the thing. The dude says the thing. He says Slayer. Like, how do you
Slayer.
not have that?
Right.
And then they were like, okay, well, here's the rest of it. And then they were like, we dropped you guys the story half of the game, and it's $60. And it was like, why am I paying $60 for what is maybe $30 of the game that I usually buy? And they're like, well,
Hmm.
we give you the other half for free. And it was like,
Well, that's not
okay,
free then.
and like you gave me that half for free. Like, so you're telling me that multiplayer never was worth anything, and the story was always worth $60?
Right. Yeah, that's
Okay, you guys are
mental
definitely
gymnastics
out
there.
there. Yeah, it's I every time a Halo thing happens, like my favorite was the last few days that people were like, "Ah, Forge is coming," and Halo like trended, and it was just people being like, "Halo's not coming back."
It's not at this point.
Yeah,
I don't think Forges. People have moved on, and with games that are going to start flooding out in the holiday season, Forge is not going to be enough to recoup their player base. It's just not going to happen. People
well,
are getting their
yeah,
Halo
because
fix
like
in the
yeah,
Master Chief Collection.
Forge
So
is not going to make people play with the other non-Forge modes. So
right,
like, unless you're expecting a million people to come back and just do Forge forever, like no.
right,
Every time we've had Forge in a Halo game, it's always been cool and fun, but it's always like I'm tired of doing the normal Halo things. I'm gonna find something I can like dick around in that's fun or goofy. And the next day, you usually go back into regular Halo modes, and then it always ends up being the end of the night. Like maybe I'll do something to like unwind to kind of Halo mode for most people.
sure,
Yeah, absolutely.
all right.
Hey, at least
So
we're getting that demo back.
yeah, the Halo demo. And that's the thing I put.
Here's the Halo demo.
Someone
Neat.
posted. Microsoft posted that they were doing like Microsoft Xbox branded hammocks. It's like you people will literally do anything except make Halo Infinite content at this point. It's
Yeah, yeah.
I don't
Oh
get it.
boy.
All right, let's move on to our last quick headline for the day. Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic remake has reportedly been indefinitely delayed. That is a huge blow to gaming fans out there. I've seen a lot of blowback on this, and it's very, very unfortunate. A lot of people were looking forward to this, but it looks like, according to Bloomberg, Aspire Media fired the game's designer director Brad Prince, and art director Jason Miner earlier this month after showing the demo of the remake. So obviously that didn't go well. So if you show, if you show, your face is hilarious. Um,
How bad does it have to be to get fired? Like,
yeah.
you did such a
So
bad job. Not only was it needs to be fixed, but it was so bad that not only does it need to be fixed, but you're not qualified to fix it.
yeah,
You made a mess you couldn't fix. Holy shit.
yeah.
That's incredible.
And I just this remake always kind of had like a weird thing in the back of my head, like Aspire, not exactly a huge production company. Like, just are they biting off more than they could chew with doing like a remake of this game? But yeah, it says the pair were reportedly dismissed shortly after the studio finalized a demo of the game to show its production partners Lucasfilm and Sony. So I can only imagine it must. I would die to be a fly in that wall, or a fly in the wall of that
Yeah,
room,
like
because
I don't want to. Yeah,
what did they show?
yeah. I almost that's tough because like without seeing the demo and knowing the work of those two people, individuals or whatever, like
Hmm.
this could have also just been like the guy who was running it didn't like the way that it looked, and maybe it was fine, or maybe he just didn't like it, and he
Hmm.
snap fired those two people as like a panic response. I don't know. I
Oh
don't know.
man,
I don't want to sit here and say that those people are bad
I would just say that
because
they got some feedback from Sony and Lucasfilms. It looks like, and it was a feedback enough to
yeah,
get fired, which is
and yeah,
bad shit.
ooh, that's
That's bad. So, um, I don't know.
man,
It's been
yeah.
delayed indefinitely, so I don't know if maybe this gets pushed over to Saber to finish it. But so it's kind of going to be in production hell at this point, and hopefully someday we get to see this remake come to fruition. So that's where we
Star
are.
Wars or more like Star Wars contortioned. Contortion. I don't know.
uh, I don't know
Roll
either.
the next one.
All right. So let's get into our bigger stories here. We saw some quarterly earnings from Sony and Microsoft. Not great. So it looks like PlayStation, their sales are largely flat. And this could be contributing to a lot of things. Obviously, it's almost next to impossible to get a PlayStation 5 right now. I think
Mhm.
it's somewhere upwards of 60 to 70% of net sales right now are coming from the PlayStation 4. Um, which is not
Yeah,
good because we are what, a year and a half into this generation, and they're still crutched on the previous generation for revenue. Um,
absolutely.
so we saw them down, and I guess we're seeing a lot of like digital, like they're really heading into like large digital sales. I think they said like 80% of their sales are all digital. Um,
Hmm.
so I don't know.
Well,
They're
to be
just
fair, that number's a little skewed because they made an all digital only system this time around.
they did.
So there are some percentage of people who lock their decision of what they're buying their console media type into
Sure.
digital forever from that purchase. So you figure if I don't have a number, but like say like 20% of all PlayStation 5s produced are digital only editions,
Hmm.
you're going to have an automatic 20% of your sales have to be digital, like or something around that area. So, and we didn't really see that before. We haven't had a PlayStation with no disk drive yet in previous generations, so
Right.
that's interesting.
Um,
I don't know. Xbox did it last gen though, so maybe looking at Xbox's previous data would give a better indicator of how much that impacts digital sales versus physical.
sure.
It definitely has to do something to it.
Yeah.
Um, that's interesting. I was just the other thing that was funny too about that was like I keep seeing Xbox digital editions in my local stores, like in Walmarts and Targets and stuff. And PlayStation hasn't done that. They haven't
Hmm.
put any of them in store, even the digital ones only. They're all only online or through like GameStop drop ship things or all these things they do.
Right.
Um, and it makes me wonder if we're seeing like a sort of a case study in the impact of not selling a product at a physical retail location because it's effectively what they're doing, intentionally or otherwise. You're
Hmm.
getting a sort of clear control issue of like none of them are in stores ever, and this is the result. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Obviously, production issues were a big thing, and chip shortages, which are starting to like, now they're coming down. You'll probably see that hit the supply side for them. I imagine by this time next year or something.
Hmm.
But it's interesting to see what happens when you remove retail because we always talk about like getting things from Amazon, getting things offline, yada yada, and how it, all that. So it's interesting to see when it's forced, right? Like when the products are only available through a digital order like that,
Sure.
what that does to like actual sales. Like a lot of people will not go online even if they have the chance to get online and get one. Like go on GameStop's website, go on Sony's, get an invitation from Sony, blah blah blah. They want to do it in store when they have the moment. They're like, how many impulse buys are going out the door because they're not there?
Right.
How many people would be trading in stuff at a GameStop to like drop the price to like buyable range, and they can't do that through Amazon? Like, I just wonder how much of this missing from physical retail, what kind of impact this has. If they didn't have supply issues, would we still see that not hitting the sales numbers they wanted?
Right.
I don't know. I guess it's speculative, but
And it comes down to a lot of supply too. They only, I guess they got, is it 2.4 million consoles out this year versus last year being like 2.3. So they're
mhm,
still affected largely by this supply and demand issue with electronic chips and stuff. So it's,
absolutely.
we're seeing it come down for other places. I don't know if they just can't get a foothold in the production lines or what. But I know Microsoft paid a lot of extra money to make sure that they could get preference in these production lines. And we're seeing it because I've seen both Xboxes in stores.
Oh wow.
I've walked by them a million times, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
um, it's I don't know, it's wild.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too that didn't help was like I have it on a rumor that the Nintendo. So there was a whole truck of parts coming for Sony. It was an
Hmm.
entire box of chips, and Nintendo sent out one of their carts, and the cart went in front of the truck with a banana peel and dropped it, and the whole truck jackknifed. and they just snatched that whole thing of chips and ran with it, and that's when we got the Switch 2, and by that I mean the OLED Switch.
Almost a year of doing this, I have not made a mute button for you yet.
They Ocean's 11 the truck of
Ocean's
chips
11, the truck.
so they could make the OLED Switch. That's the only reason it came out.
Yeah, no doubt. But one of the things that we saw, like a big indicator with Sony having issues, was a lot of games that were destined to be PlayStation 5 only. They reversed that
Went
course.
for
They had to make it
yep.
for
There's a lot of that.
they saw the blood in the water here.
Hmm.
With this being an issue, they can't move software if they can't move the hardware. And it doesn't help
Yep.
when you have scalpers buying these up online, keeping them in warehouses, 1,000 to 10,000 at a time. They're moving hardware, but a PlayStation that's in a box sitting in a warehouse is not a PlayStation that's buying software.
Hmm.
It's that simple.
Dude, there was even stuff like, if you look at like Final Fantasy VII Integrate was a good example, right? Because they
Mhm.
made Final Fantasy VII Remake, and then Integrate was only available on the PlayStation 5. And
Mhm.
then like a year later came around and they did a PC release for it, and it still was only PS5 and PC. And now either they are shortly or they already did roll it to PlayStation 4 as
Mhm.
well. And I guarantee, like, Sony went to them and was like, "You guys, we would really appreciate it if you would put that on the PS4 because we need either the console sales or that game to sell like that." Like,
Sure.
because look at like we at the top of the show we talked about PlayStation's lineup, and it's 3 PS4 games, 2 of which are available on the PS5 as well, but all 3 were on the PS4. And I guarantee you, if your supply issues were not a problem from the jump, you would have 2 PS5 games and 1 PS4 game, and they would be trying to make people go to the PlayStation 5.
Of course.
The
Absolutely.
only reason I think that it was 3 PS4 games again this month, like it has been pretty much rolling, is they know that their supply issue and availability are an issue, and they're
Mhm.
orienting that way on purpose. Yeah.
Of course. Um, so we saw Microsoft also not really meeting goals in their investor meeting. Microsoft shared its financial quarterly results ending in June. They saw a 6% decrease year over year in Xbox revenue due to lower engagement and limited hardware supply. So,
Hmm.
as much as we say, yeah, we see the Xboxes in public, they are still not meeting demand in certain regions of the world.
Right.
The
Yeah.
Xbox's
I mean,
hardware revenue was down by 11%.
yeah. I was like, I live in a very city area, so like, I'm sure that supply for an area like where I live is probably prioritized.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'll say that. I don't think this is one of the few places where I live where like we don't really have trouble finding stuff other than things that just don't exist in stores like PlayStations and stuff.
Sure.
Because all these stores, I mean, I'm in a tourist location. I've got people coming in from all over the world to this location where like they might hit Target or GameStop or Walmart after vacation just to take home a whole console or
Mm-hmm.
something that's not made in their country or something that's not available in their country. So like um I'm very privileged to live in a place where that there is no supply issue on that
Sure.
regard, when within reason. If obviously if it doesn't exist, it
Of
doesn't
course.
exist. But like, um, yeah, it's and it's funny to think about that. Yeah, because I could walk through the store and pretty much grab anything off the shelf most of the time. Um, but yeah, I that obviously that very biases my opinion on like the availability of these things. I tell people like, oh yeah, I see Xboxes all the time. That does not mean that there's not a huge swath of people that can't find an Xbox in store from Alabama all the way out to like Montana or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I always have to remember to take that with a grain of salt that like I can see that stuff on my walls at any time, and it doesn't really mean much for like the global supply. Like I am not in a good position to judge the global supply because of that
Sure.
tourist position.
Yeah, and they said that hardware revenue was down by 11%, and they said the decrease was partially offset by an increase of Xbox Game Pass subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I mean that kind of answers a lot of it poses, I think, a lot of questions we've asked before. Was
Yeah,
why buy an Xbox if I don't need to, if I can just go onto the Game Pass platform?
correct.
And
Yeah.
B, is the Xbox Game Pass platform funding itself enough? And you have to question like
Mm-hmm.
when Sony or when Xbox or Microsoft they go out and spend all this money to get all these distribution rights, is it are they doing this at a loss? Um, and I would say, I mean, there are indicators where that's probably true, and I obviously I
Okay,
can't break
wouldn't be
that
the first
down,
time.
right?
Yeah.
Um, Well, that's the thing. It's like Xbox operates on a loss because they can afford to, because they're just a smaller part of Microsoft.
Right.
Um,
They're trying to play a long, long game and eventually
right.
win out. Yeah.
So
What was I gonna say? I wonder. I speculate. Do you think PC hardware is up?
yeah, oh yeah.
Because you think a lot of
Because video
people.
cards are available now, people are buying PCs, are building PCs again.
Well, not just that, but like when people couldn't find PlayStations and Xboxes, although
Hmm.
there was price issues, it seemed like even when cards were being scalped pretty heavily, you could still get whole computers from like Newegg or CyberPower or these
Uh-huh.
other producers. They still had a chunk of cards on standby for like full
Right.
production runs.
And I'm sure
So I
that they
wonder if there
had
was
like
a drive for that.
their own dedicated supply
Yeah.
lines
Oh
through
yeah, I
Nvidia
bet.
and ATI.
Previously established contracts or something.
A
Yeah,
hundred
because they'd be the
percent.
only ones that would really have them. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like. So I just wonder how many. I wonder if part of Game Pass's growth can be attributed to PC growth, and then people doing like the well, I just got a brand new PC, and if you have a brand new PC, Game Pass is a no-brainer because you have no library at all on Steam or anything else yet.
Sure.
So it is like a one-shot open the door to a bunch of gaming. So I almost wonder if there's a spike, like the hardware shortage for Xbox caused an increase in PC growth, and then that led to an increase in Xbox growth anyway on Game Pass.
Sure. I mean, it's still on the Windows
Um,
platform, so Microsoft at the end of the day still kind
yeah,
of wins.
they still eat. So yeah, it's interesting, but it's funny because it kind of goes back to like whether it's intentional or otherwise. It goes back to what you were saying for the last like year now about how it's slowly putting more and more people onto the PC environment or community
Hmm.
and away from Xbox, and you might end up in a position where Xbox the hardware stops selling and they just move to we do Game Pass, we publish,
Sure.
we do like the Microsoft Store, yada yada yada, and it would work out for them because their hardware has literally been operating at a loss since the beginning. And you may very well be right that their end goal of a 20, 30-year cycle even is to get everybody onto PC gaming over a long period.
Right.
And we're going that way. Whether it was an accident or intentional with this whole shortage thing, it is putting people on PC and it is putting people on Game Pass.
Hmm.
And then,
And
if Xbox eventually they cut the cord and they say we're not making a new console this year, a lot of people who have the console and Game Pass would naturally be like, what else can I do with my Game Pass? And people would be like, you can buy $1,000 gaming laptop and go there. And then they do that.
or new TVs that are coming out with Game Pass integration built into it. They've already
Oh yeah,
announced that. I
yeah, and
think
like
it was
the
with
cloud streaming.
LG,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
or
That's
Samsung.
true.
So I mean, they're going down a path where it's like they don't necessarily need to sell the hardware. And I've been saying this
Yeah,
since
absolutely.
college when the Xbox
Yeah,
released that this was a social experiment to get either games on the platform or console gamers on the PC. Um,
yeah,
and like I've said before too, we've seen so many games post Xbox move to console that we would have never seen, or move to PC that we would have never seen move to PC in the past.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Back in the early 2000s, there was a very strict line between PC gamers and console gamers, and that line
Mm-hmm.
has blurred over the last 2 decades. So,
Well, dude, I
especially,
remember.
good.
What was it? There's something came out on PC. I think it was the Master Chief Collection, and I was like,
Mhm.
no way. What do I buy an Xbox for? And they were like, oh yeah, it's coming to the PC.
Right.
And then I was like, all right, I'm fine with this. I guess I'll save my Xbox for the exclusives. And then that was when they started doing the next 2 years of all the releases were slotted to automatically be on PC. When they announced the Xbox One Series X and everything and Series S, and it was like, okay, but why did you make this then? Like, I get it; it's a cheaper price point for consumers to get in on Game Pass and get on gaming, but like, nobody needs this then if they
Right.
already have a computer, and a lot of people have computers because why wouldn't you? So it was just yeah, it was one of those like I'm never buying an Xbox console, and it's not out of some like hatred or some sort of antagonism. It's literally just not useful to me.
Sure. Well, I've since canceled my Game Pass subscription because I wasn't getting anything out of it. But I have like
It's
the
fair.
Xbox One All Digital that I picked up on like a Black Friday sale for like under $100. I'm like, why not?
Oh, nice.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't argue with that for
sure,
sure.
but Game Pass, you can still stream like current gen games onto that game system. Um,
Yep.
Games that wouldn't graphically hold up, you can still play the current gen version of it on that system through streaming. So again, we pose
Yeah.
the question: why would I upgrade my hardware? Why would I buy new hardware? It doesn't make sense to
Oh
me.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so having exclusive software really doesn't make any difference anymore
You know what's actually
in
funny about
Xbox's
that?
camp.
That's funny about that. If you think about it, Nintendo actually has all the keys in that regard because their console is a mobile console and they have things like motion controls that PC doesn't really do.
Hmm.
So as funny as that is, Nintendo actually has a corner of that market that I don't think the Steam Deck is going to take from them.
Sure.
Oh, I guess it's two pronged because Nintendo not only has that mobile market with their hardware, but they also have a strong collection of IPs that no one can just dismiss outright.
Of course, and Nintendo will always be the portable king. I
Yeah,
can never see that. It's been that way my entire life,
yeah.
and
Well, just yeah.
it will be from here on out.
Well, I mean, also like on top of that, like Xbox IPs go to PC all the time now. Sony's IPs are starting to go that way. We're seeing God of Wars, we're seeing Horizon Zero Dawns make their way over. Nintendo has not done that.
Mm-mm.
I mean, like third party stuff, things they publish, maybe, sure, but you are not catching Zeldas, Mario's, Metroids on PC.
Nope.
It's not a thing. And if that ever changes, that's another story that we'll have to discuss that because that would be a big deal if
Oh,
that changes. But until that changes, like Nintendo will have a reason to buy hardware
sure.
forever at this.
Claire said, with it hard to get a PS5, it's the reason I switched to playing Destiny on PC, and then eventually just buying a laptop instead of a PS5. Yep, my Xbox honestly just oh, this is like this one, yeah. My Xbox honestly just a media player for me, which is exactly what you do with yours before. I guess is it
Yep.
burnt before it burn out.
No, my Xbox, I just sold it.
Oh, you sold.
Well, because I had my PlayStation, which I also wasn't playing, so that went into the bedroom and became the media device, and my Xbox just became, I don't know, some Switch game we bought with the store credit
Sure.
or something. But no, yeah, same deal. And to be fair, I have games on PlayStation to play, but I'm not playing them currently because Final Fantasy is a problem.
It sure is. Oh man, you saw me get out my stack of games that I of like Switch games that I just bought just this summer, and it's like I
Yep.
haven't touched a single one.
Dude, yeah, I'll pick up stuff on Steam when it's on sale and be like, yeah, put it in my Steam library, and then I'll grab games like I had games I got for Christmas last year, like Bravely Default 2. Super excited to play that game. Could not wait for that game. Have
Right,
not played that game.
unbelievable. It's unreal.
Well, it's like that'll happen, and then like weird random things will pop up. Like Tunic was one where it just ate a bunch of my time for no reason.
Games as
And
a service
then
addiction.
what was the other one we did? You mentioned it
Vampire
last week. I forgot.
Survivors.
Vampire Survivors was one too. Yeah, we all spent like a few weeks in there for no
Hmm.
reason, just playing it like crazy.
Yeah.
Which was cool. No, there was something else we played too. What did we play for a little while there? We played Outriders for a little while.
Hmm.
We bounced around a little bit. It's usually, you know what it is? I think it's usually just like co-op games. Because if I get on at night to play a video game, you guys are probably on, and I'd probably rather just play something with you guys than run something
Dude. I
solo.
live for co-op games. Like I just that's where I'm
Yeah,
at. That's where
same.
I'm at in life. I don't care about PvP. I don't care about um, yelling at people and fucking chats before the game, whatever. I'm just over it. It's not for
I am
me.
not concerned with my mom's relations to these people online.
Right.
I'm sure they had a good time. No,
All right.
but yeah,
Well,
I agree.
let's move on to our next big story. For those who are invested in the analog pockets, we've got our first update. I have mine ordered since 8 minutes after it went live last December, and I'm still waiting for mine. So I can't wait to get it. It should be here, I would say, in the next couple months. But it's got its first update today, so we made some big announcements. They had three announcements to make: the FPGA, Analog's development program, the future of video games. Basically, these are like development cores that you can use to basically do like homebrew on the system. They did
Mhm.
Space War. I guess this is a game that they're preserving for the OpenFPGA platform, and then they
Oh
did the
wow.
OS 1.1 beta, light versions of the library of memories, which I had up. I don't know if I have it up anymore. Let me take a look here. I can kind of break all this down. But the cool thing about the library is that's you put a cartridge in this analog pocket, and you can read the info off it. It can give everything down to like revisions of the board and like what version of the game it is, because they did like slight mid run revisions of software back in the day,
Oh
and that's the only
sure.
way they could do
Yeah.
it was just throwing on the cartridge, and that was it. So you might have a slightly different version of like even like Pokemon than someone else might have. Um,
Right.
But the memory
Yeah.
things is really cool too, because it kind of gives like a breakdown. It's almost like a timeline of like games that you've played and like game saves and stuff. So it's almost like a little bit of like an old school Facebook feed for like all of your activity on the game. So that's really cool.
Is that opposed to like an old school Instagram feed where it's going to show me ads for games I don't have yet?
Pretty much.
Yeah. No, that's exciting actually because I like the idea of like going in and seeing which version of Pokemon I have because I'd like to track down a copy of Pokemon Blue where I can get Mew from under the truck because I know it was there and they took it
Yeah,
away.
right, right. They're also doing an update to the dock with more controller support. So they're adding the 8-bit-do SN30, the 8-bit-do Lite. They're adding PlayStation 5 controller support and 8-bit-do
Ooh,
PCE 2.5 gig. So yeah, it's nice to see that they're finally adding this up. They put up a roadmap too. The ongoing OpenFPGA features coming out in August, and then all of September we're getting the DAC support, final button map, full button mapping, the library memories and screenshots. They're doing the Game Boy camera integration, so you can finally use the Game Boy camera and take pictures with it, and it'll save on the analog. It's amazing.
the only
Um,
reason I didn't buy it. Now I'm sold.
New
Link's
original.
Awakening. I gotta have the camera.
Right. New original display modes and tracking tools coming in October. So it's nice to see that they're really putting a lot of this out there. I'm still excited to get mine. So someday, and I'll certainly be
Yeah,
talking about it once I do.
I've seen this making the rounds a few times, but I never really got like I didn't really look into it too far.
Hmm.
But I mean, if I can play Super Mario Land with a DualSense 5, that's pretty good.
Hell yeah, man.
The way it was meant to be played.
Right. So yeah, be excited for that. All the analog people out there.
Please look
Um,
forward to it.
yeah. So you probably know a little bit more about this than me because I just haven't really been following it too hard. But we saw some drama unfold with Destiny this week. So, oh man, it's good stuff. So, what do we want to talk about
Amazing.
first? The development or the raid drop.
You know, let's do it chronologically because that's
Okay.
what feels like it makes the most sense. Now, I can't speak to the PvP side because I don't play PvP.
Hmm.
I know that there's been a lot of complaints this past season about classy restoration being too strong.
Hmm.
And I know that in a PvE setting, it's crazy strong, and I abuse the hell out of it when we're doing dungeons and stuff. Um, but I could not speak to the PvP side. I don't do that stuff. We'd have to bring in like Dark or someone to talk about it. But I've heard that there's some PvP imbalance problems. Class restoration's a big one. A couple other things are problems. Um, and then there was like random things like people are complaining about not having maps because the last couple of patches and the last couple of drops this past season of Destiny had nothing for the PvP community. They just didn't do anything for them
Hmm.
or whatever. Like they bring back a game mode. I think what's that game mode they brought back? I don't remember the name even. I
I
really don't
don't
do
know.
PvP,
I don't either.
but
I really don't.
that's whatever. People talk about it, and it's whatever. People are talking about it. The big kickers is that they did their TWAB, and a lot of people thought they were going to talk about what the new raid was going to be. Not the new raid, I should say the raid that's coming back
The
from Destiny One.
unvaulted raid. You
I
know.
will not call it an unvaulted raid because I'm not giving them the credit for that. It's a raid from a different game that they're making for this game. That you don't get to say that you vaulted all of D1 just because you discontinued. You didn't even discontinue it. Like you moved on to another game, left that game up and running, and then you're just taking stuff from there to move over here. All props to these teams, Bungie team for working on this. It's fantastic.
Uh huh.
But I'm not letting them get away with the marketing trick of calling it unvaulting content because they haven't unvaulted anything ever yet. So put that aside. Um, so nobody knows what's coming, and people thought that Schwab was going to tell us what it was because people have been speculating that it's going to be Wrath of the Machine, or that it's going to be Crota, the actual fighting, or not Crota, what's his name, Oryx, his
Hmm.
raid. Um, and some people said maybe Crota, but a lot of people don't want it to be Crota, or if Crota comes back, they want it to be like fully retooled, not like they did with the Atheon raid, because the Atheon raid was fine. That one
Hmm.
didn't need any changes. The Crota raid, I don't know if you played Crota, I think, right? Like way back,
Yeah.
it wasn't great. Like
Honestly, they should do Crota as a dungeon.
the Crota would be a great dungeon, yes, absolutely. Um, it just wasn't big enough for like a raid. It
Hmm.
was quick and it was small and it was. I mean, at the
I
time, there was
have a
problems too
feeling.
with like,
I have a feeling they're just going to do it in chronological order.
yeah, that could be the case. Yeah, it very well could be. It would make sense. It does make
Hmm.
some sense. Um, The problem, like Crota had that problem too with because that was back in the days of self-resing warlocks, where you would just like let 5 people die, and then the warlock would die and then immediately self-res, and the game would be like, well, for a minute there, all the players weren't on this side, so open bridge, and then that one warlock would just like res people or run
Right.
across on his own or something, or you could like sword over and then do it from there. There was all kinds of bugs to like skip encounters entirely. And Crota had problems. You could pull your network if you were the host. You could pull your network cable while Crota was down on his knee, and he would stay there. And
Right.
you would have like a DC issue, but all your friends could kill Crota, and then you would like reconnect, and then they would like rubber band and be like, okay, Crota was on his knee and he took 18 million damage for some reason somehow. Okay, that makes sense, and he's dead. And like you'd be like, okay, we cleared it. Like
Mm-hmm.
like so you could skip a fight, basically skip a fight, and you only really had to deal with like the witch lady who did the death song, and she wasn't that bad once you got your light level up and you were dealing with her. But anyway, I digress from that whole thing. Nobody knew what it was going to be, and people thought the 12 was going to tell us, but then they didn't. They didn't actually say what rate it is. They just said when it's coming, but that caused its own problem because when it's coming is on a Friday, and some of the previous raids have been Tuesdays, and there's been some Fridays, and then there was some Saturdays more recently, and they've been doing Saturday more recently. And they didn't give any context. They just said it's coming Friday, August something, 20 something, save the date. Um, and a lot of people were upset because it went from a Saturday to a Friday for like North American users. Like our block specifically went from Saturday to Friday. Um, so a lot of people were upset. And one of the community managers from Bungie, I believe her Twitter handle is something like Dirty Effin' Hippie.
Mm-hmm.
She's cool. She's great. She was talking to people and being like, "Hey, let me explain a little bit. Like, we have burnout problems. We have crunch problems. Like every game developer company, every publisher, all these groups. And one thing we can do to mitigate that is have our raid be on a Friday because the last raid we had was on a Saturday, and you were there, so you remember that Vow had a lot of problems. There was a lot of things that went wrong. They had to disable several abilities on guns, on the artifact tree. Like a lot of shit had to get disabled to make it happen. And they did not have a team on deck for that because it was a Saturday. So it was everyone's day off, or they work Monday through Friday, pretty much as the whole studio. So Saturday was just like the overtime crew, skeleton crew, whatever they had
Mm-hmm.
on hand, whoever would come in to help. Um, and so they were like, we've done that a few times, and we've decided Friday's the best bet to go because it's not right on reset, but we're going to be in the office that day, so we can all be on. We can be hands on deck, all 200 people or whatever it is, ready to go for if something happens. You know what I mean? And a lot of people were okay with that, but it seems like to me the majority of people were upset still that their raid day got moved. And for those of you listening who don't really play Destiny, the main gripe here is that in the first 24 hours of a raid launch, you have what's called contest mode, where your light gets capped, your strength basically gets capped, so you can only be so powerful, and it makes it artificially hard
It's like a
on
challenge
launch
mode
day. Yeah,
for the
yeah,
most part.
yeah. Is that what it is? I think it's called contest mode, but it's a challenge mode.
Right.
So that happens only for the first 24 hours. And if you complete the raid in the first 24 hours, you get a special, I believe it's an emblem that says you did it in 24 hours. Um, and there's the world's first race, but that only really happens between like 6 teams that are going to win it, and then like 100 people who think they're going to get it and they're not going to get it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's whatever. Um, but I digress. You have a whole 24 hours to do it. You can come home from school or work that day and do it Friday night. You can do it whatever.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so there was a lot of discourse going around. A lot of people were upset. Some people in the community were just absolute garbage about it. They were like, it was the weirdest thing to watch because people were like, like Dirty F and Hippie came out and she was like, we have burnout problems, crunch problems. We'd like to be able to do it on a day we're all in the office, so nobody has to like screw up their overtime, screw up their schedules. We don't have to move meetings and move dates for things. And the team's already there working on other stuff. But at least if it's on Friday, it's a lot easier to pull someone off their desk for a minute and be like, hey, this thing just happened. We need help than it is to like call someone on a Saturday and be like, I need you to drive into the office. I know it's a 2-hour commute, but like you need to come in because a thing broke and you're not here.
Right.
Like,
I've gotten those calls before, and
mm-hmm.
like, hey, we need you to come in. I'm like, I'm on the West Coast.
Yep. Oh
It's
yeah, no,
not
absolutely. That's the
happening.
thing. You can't bank around that.
Right.
Yep. So they were like, we did Friday because it made the most sense for us, and it makes a lot of sense still for a lot of players. There's a lot of players not in America who moving to Friday actually gives them a better chance at doing it because it moves their like thing ahead several hours,
Mhm.
so they can also do stuff they wouldn't be able to do it too. And they're like, yeah, so no big deal. And a lot of people were mad and salty, and I watched her go back and forth in a bunch of comments with people, and it's just you're watching people who like it's so funny. You'll see people who are like, I'm all for game devs, and I'm all for preventing crunch, and I'm all for work-life balance because we all need that. But me want Destiny Saturday, and it's
Right.
like,
Personal entertainment
are
at
you
stake.
serious? Like your values and your virtues crumble under the threat of a 24-hour emblem
Uh-huh.
from Bungie, do they?
And that's the
And
thing.
then,
It's like it's an emblem that they'll give a shit about until like the next emblem comes out, which will be like 2 weeks from then.
dude, I only judge our raid teams by Garden of Salvation 24-hour emblems. That's the only way I play with
Some
people.
people do that, man. It's
Insane.
wild.
But yeah, and then and then people in the comments were like, "Hey, there was a few solutions suggested by players. One of which was just have everyone work Saturday and have Monday off. Doesn't work like that.
Hmm.
You like either you have people either do a 6-day week and then a 4-day week because, or you have to like move meetings, you have to move teams, you have to move this, move that. Everyone has to change
Sure.
their schedules. If people have shit they do on Saturdays, usually sucks for them. They have to be in there now.
Like
Like
maybe
no
moving
part of that was
forward,
feasible.
they could plan
Yeah,
around
yeah,
that, but like
sure.
raids around the corner, it's not. We're not doing that now.
Right. So that was not a thing. And then people were doing, there was other people who were saying make the 24-hour window a 48-hour window. So you could still do it on Saturday and still get it. But it turns out that when they said, people were like, why don't you guys try a 48-hour window so people have a better chance to get the emblem? People who wanted to do it on Saturday can still do it on Saturday
Hmm.
and get it. They were like, well, because we received death threats, because by opening up that window, more people were going to get the emblem, and that makes people mad that more people can get it. Um, for whatever ass backward logic that is, that like it's literally the shittiest gatekeeping you can imagine.
Sure.
Like, so yeah, they were like, oh, well, then it would ruin the legitimacy of my emblem, and people were like, okay, dude. So yeah, threats were coming in for that, so they decided not to do that. Um, And then yeah, a few other random Bungie devs chimed in and they're like, "Hey, we all work on that team too, and like I do things on Saturday with my kids. I'm not even in town on Saturday, so I wouldn't be there.
Right.
And how many of us do that, I don't know, but it shouldn't have to be any of us. Like you can't just look at the whole team and be like, who could be here on Saturday, and be like, oh, this many people. It's like no, like fundamentally, either they should or they should not be there. And if they should not be there, then you don't not capitalize. You don't destroy that system over the raid or whatever. Like people can do it on Friday or whatever.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that was the whole thing. And then and I was laughing because I play Final Fantasy 14 and I'm like, dude, my raids come out on Tuesday and we just play on Tuesday. Like it's the middle of the week and we just get on and
Right.
play and it's not a problem. You just get on and do it. We don't have like the world first race community as bad as like Destiny does. We're like we still have world races and we still have world first and everything, but people they don't lose their shit about whether or not people get it. They're just happy when people get it. Nobody like gets mad about like extending windows or like what day it falls on or having to take time off from work. It's people just go home and play it or whatever. But yeah, so there was a lot of discourse about that and a lot of I'm very disappointed with the Bungie community, I will say, because I
Yeah.
read a lot of comments and like I didn't just skim. I went through almost the entire thread that Dirty F and Hippie had up, and a majority of the people in there were like either being shitty outright or doing the like, well, I get it, like yeah, game dev, mental health, cool, great things, but my emblem, and it was like, come
Right.
on, guys, really shitty. She ended up actually, she actually ended up getting off Twitter and uninstalling it from her phone, even to get away from it for the weekend, I think. So, congrats, you guys. Wonder why Bungie doesn't talk to you guys as much anymore, or want to talk to you guys as much. You're literally
That
driving community managers off the internet with your bullshit.
right.
So yeah, good call, good play. I'm sure it'll work out for you.
And that's what I said the other day on Twitter. It's like, when did this community become so fucking toxic? Like, the one big draw
I don't
I
know.
really liked about the Destiny community was how inclusive it really boasted itself to be at a time. Um,
Yeah,
and it's just like there was a time where it's like, oh, people need to read clear or this, or
Oh
hey,
yeah,
I'm
help was
deaf,
always bound.
or
Hmm.
I can't get this because I have a disability. They're like, fucking come on over, we're gonna get you through this raid
Yeah.
clear, and it's like, what happened to that
Well,
community?
it feels like Bungie proper still does that stuff. We still get the Bungie days. We still have the donation drives. We still have like the inclusivity and like the emblems they do, and they do all the right things for people and they help out people. But like, it feels like the community has gone sour.
Yeah,
Like the
oh
people
yeah,
who
I'm
still
not.
play the game
Yeah,
have
I'm
gone
not complaining
sour.
about the devs whatsoever. Let me be
No, yeah, no,
absolutely
I'm just
clear
saying
there.
it wasn't from the top. Like Bungie didn't lead people down this path. People just started going that way for some reason.
Hmm.
I mean, what was it? We saw a little while ago. Remember, Bungie made a statement when Roe v. Wade happened, and the comments were just full of people giving Bungie shit over that opinion.
Right.
And it was like, I don't know what to tell you guys. Like, yeah, it's a video game, but like, a lot of people's lives are impacted by these decisions, whichever way you feel about it. And if a company takes a stance, if you don't like it, that's fine. But like, what are you going to go on Twitter and yell at them? Like,
Right. And this
okay,
is
that's gonna work.
these comments are coming from the people who are like, oh, corporations are people too, and all of a sudden, okay, corporation person wants to make opinion. Oh, corporation bad.
Yeah,
Stick to making
yeah,
game. It's
yeah.
like,
Yeah, I love that
go
stuff.
to
I just
bed.
a guy I watch Angry Joe, and he just posted on politics last night about something, and people were like, like stick to video games, and it was like, these people aren't robots. Like they have opinions too. They use their account for whatever they feel like. The dude wants to post politics, he can post politics. Like
Hmm.
I don't tend to do that very often, but I bet if you go through my likes, you'll find me liking posts from people shitting on people that are in politics or talking about politics and discourse. Um, I just don't retweet anything ever because I'm lazy. But yeah, no, it was just wild to watch Bungie get shit for that, and then this happened, and then after this, it doesn't stop here. Um, like within a day, I think it was yesterday or was it today? Ooh, I'm getting a little blurry on that. Right after this whole raid discourse was like kind of happening and then finishing up,
Hmm.
um, a bug happened in Destiny 2 where you can send a person a whisper of like a specific phrase or string that'll overload it, and it will kick that player that you whisper to orbit. So you can actually just target a player at the tower or in any event, and you can just be like, whisper a message, and they will just go to orbit.
Oh, I'm sure that was
So,
definitely not abused in trials.
well, that was the problem. Was like, Files was covered with people doing that. Streamers like streaming was a problem during
Hmm.
this window, and still is, I think, because you would have to disable the ability to receive whispers at all, like lock it
Sure.
to like friends only or something. Because otherwise you'd be on stream and you'd have 10 viewers and one of your viewers would just be like, it's funny to do this, and they'd go find you and like whisper at you and you'd get kicked to orbit or something. Like it was wild. And then Bungie started banning people who were doing it because, well, they made an announcement and they were like, don't do this because obviously sending people to orbit while they're playing is really bad.
Sure.
um and they were like, but it is a breach of terms of service because you're manipulating the network basically, and we will be banning people who do this. So they were like, if you're doing it to your friends as a joke or something, don't, because we're not going
Right.
to be able to tell the difference.
Well, I think
So,
streamers were doing it too. And
oh
those
yeah,
people
yeah,
should be
streamers were
get
doing it too.
those
Yep.
people should have like lifetime bans. I'm sorry, just
Oh
done.
yeah, absolutely. Just being shitty like that for no
Hmm.
reason. And then so yeah, that whole thing happened, and then the discourse shifted to people being upset about like, oh, Bungie can ban people for this whisper kick thing, but they can't ban people for this, or they can't fix this gun, or they can't fix class restoration in PvP, and it's like, my guy, there's a difference between an ability in the game being too powerful for the game mode and you personally disliking it, or maybe a bunch of people agreeing that it's too strong or too weak or something, versus an unintended mechanic where a player can remove you from the game. They can eject you from your play session.
Right.
One of those is significantly worse than the other, and I don't think you need me to tell you that. I don't think you're acting in good faith when
No,
you
100% not.
compare I can force kick a player from the entire game versus dude heals too much when he does dodge.
Hmm.
Like, oh, come on, dude. That's not a valid criticism. Like, complaining about that PvP mode is fine, but stacking those two things together and saying, how can they do X and not Y, is absolutely asinine. Like, one of those is a 7 alarm fire that they're going to respond to on the spot because it's ruining people's play experiences on a huge scale.
And they had to
And one of
disable the
those is
chat.
like, yeah, 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 exactly. And one of those is like, oh, I hate when people use shotguns. Like, oh, come on, dude. I get it. It sucks. Don't play the mode. Come back in a week. Wait for the
Right.
season to change. by all means, complain about that, sure, but do not stack that up against an actual like virtual like network attack that kicks players from the game. It's not even
100%.
comparable, and no one who's making that comparison is either in good faith, or if they're in good faith, you need to go back to school. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I just don't have a lot of sympathy for that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
I don't
like,
either. I absolutely
people
do not.
love to make these.
It's a horrible bad faith argument.
What do they call it? People like to make these like aggrandizing statements of like,
False
you know what it
dichotomy?
reminds me of? Yeah, it reminds me. Yeah, it's a false dichotomy. It reminds me of like the "you live in society but you do society" thing. Like,
Right, right, right.
sure, like people are capable of two things at once, sure, but like one of these things is not considered that much of a problem, or if it is a problem, it's the kind of problem that they're okay with to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is like one is like it's like you're comparing like the price of a subway ticket and like, is this really affordable in our economy these days? And then a bomb goes off at the subway station, and you're like, oh, you guys have time to send firefighters for the bomb at the subway station, but you can't change the price of my tickets, like to tell me like, what are you talking about, dude? Come
Right,
on.
not even comparable.
One of these is an actual emergency.
It's like, oh,
One of these
you
is
criticize
like your
capitalism, but
preference.
you take part in the only economic model available to you in your surroundings. Curious. Like,
Yeah,
what argument are you
I
making at
love
that point?
when I love that. It's like, well, if you don't like the wages at McDonald's, don't work there. And it's like, well, where else are they going to work in bumblefuck Missouri?
Right.
There's 3 stores, and one of
Yeah.
them is Walmart. What do they do for a job? Oh, they could work however they want.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They're just gonna
Yeah. You
gonna
know,
find a job.
lower class mobility is at an all time high right now.
Dude, 100% of people who are born into poverty come out of poverty when they die.
Yeah.
That's
You're not wrong.
you can't make it up.
Yeah.
You can, but
You can.
no, that's a whole. But like, it was wild to watch people be like, I mean, and I think some of that I only saw because Dark was commenting on people and being like, "Bro, what the fuck is this take?" Like, because it's like they were literally being like, you know, thing like this happens, and you guys are all over it. But you know, we want you to move the raid to Saturday, and you don't say anything, and it's like those are not the same
Right.
things." Like,
They're not at
people
all.
are like, I can't even access the raid that I'm paying for, and it's like, my guy, the raid's there on Saturday. It's there on
Can't
Sunday.
even
It'll be there
access it.
next Friday. Like, yeah, I get like the only thing I've seen valid come out of that whole discussion is that contest mode should be something players can select after the 24-hour window's over, and still do it and not get the emblem. And I agree, that would be cool. And if you tell
I don't even
Bungie
care if
that,
they get the emblem or not. Let them have the fucking emblem.
yeah,
Who gives a shit?
well, and that's the thing, like if you tell them like, hey, yeah, contest mode should be a thing, that's a perfectly valid criticism. If your criticism is, why haven't they made contest mode a thing, but they're able to fix players being kicked from the game by other players chatting at them, you're an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Those are not comparable in the slightest.
Claire says,
Not worth the time.
I just need Polaris Lance and I'm fine. I'll kill them across the map before they can use a shotgun. I'll tell you what, no one in PvP uses Polaris Lance. Claire uses Polaris Lance and does numbers. I would never want to be on the opposite side of that firefight. That is for sure.
Oh my god, that's funny.
She can shoot. All right.
But yeah, so Destiny's just had, the community has been rocky the last few days, and I don't know how else to put this nicely, but a good chunk of the player base needs to grow the fuck up.
Yeah, there's
Stop
definitely
treating this game like their lifestyle. It's not your personality.
Right.
Like, I get it. If you love this game, that's great. I love video games. I have games. My walls are covered with posters. I have shirts. I'm wearing a Kingdom Hearts shirt and a Kingdom Hearts necklace. My wallet's Kingdom Hearts, and I still don't act like Kingdom Hearts 3 was a 10 out of 10 game because I know better.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't control my life to be like, yeah, I have to defend this franchise to the death, or if this franchise doesn't meet my demands, I'm gonna eat a baby. Like, come on, guys.
What if?
What? Yeah. Yeah,
just
Nomura is like, Kingdom Hearts 4 special edition, eat a baby, and we'll send it to you. And I'm like,
yeah. Well, just a real quick reminder out there to people in the Destiny community: you are not Aztec Cross, you are not Dado, you are not Glad. Get over it.
I saw somebody.
Why would you want to be those people?
That.
What's
they
up?
Were like, somebody the other day, they were joking, and they were like, you know, they were like, oh, I have just. They were like, oh, I'm gonna do world first, and it was like a dude with like 10 followers that I'd never heard of. Which, okay, sure, maybe he's really good. I can't judge him on that, obviously.
Sure.
But it was just really funny because he's like, I have as many world first clears as Dado, which I think it was like a joke that he has 0
Oh,
technically, right? Because he hasn't
okay.
actually gotten one.
That's fair.
And I was like, I mean, hey, if you want to make the comparison that you're as good as that player because you both have 0 world firsts, well then I'm as good as him too.
Sure.
So, but we're being facetious at that point. You're not actually telling me that you're missing out on your chance to get world first because of Bungie moving it to Friday. I guarantee
I'm
when this is
confident
all
that it
said
was
and
probably
done.
just a joke, but I'm fine
Yeah,
with
yeah,
that.
oh for sure it was. No, yeah, it was just funny because I was like, I'll say that too. Then if we're gonna do that whole thing,
Sure.
I'll be like, listen, I'm as good as Dotto as all you players are, so I have just as much right to say that you're all idiots about this. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that whole thing happened, and it kind of breaks my heart because I'm big on Twitch or on Twitter. Sorry, I'm big on Twitter in the game dev communities, and I follow a lot of devs, and I see the reactions when people. There was already discourse going into this about crunch and
Mm-hmm.
about devs being burnt out. The guy from Ubisoft, that guy Joe that I was talking about last week or 2 weeks ago, about how he had an whole article written about him because he said gamers are entitled sometimes and they need to stop and stop harassing devs. I mean, the dude makes art for like Ubisoft games,
Mm-hmm.
and people were like giving him death threats and being like, "I fucking hate how Assassin's Creed played," and it's like, my guy, he drew models
He
for that
he
game. He
doesn't have
made 3D
anything to do with
models.
that.
He doesn't
Like,
do anything with that. People are like, "Oh, you guys, you ruined Division 2," and he's like, "Dude, I did backgrounds and set pieces in Division 2. I didn't make
if he
Division 2 suck, quote unquote, according to you.
right.
Like,
I mean,
I
like
didn't
that's
make
the
the
thing too.
decision to
It's
make
like
Division a mobile game.
imagine saying that
Like,
to an artist who had nothing to do with that project. He just happens to work for that company as a whole.
just
Like,
getting messages
Jesus.
that are like, the next Division game is on mobile, and I think you should all die over it. And it's like,
Fair. That's fair.
what did he, like, what even? Like, okay.
I
But no,
I
so seeing
get
that happen,
being angry at shitty development and the way that the game industry's going. I am
oh,
just as
sure.
angry as anyone else. But to
Oh,
sit
yeah,
there and tell
absolutely.
people to kill themselves or send them death threats or threaten to burn down Bungie's headquarters,
Yep.
it just makes you a fucking incel at the end of the
Or
day.
defend people who want to burn the headquarters down by saying he was just being edgy. Like, we
Right,
don't have like multiple shootings a day, bomb attacks. Like this shit doesn't just happen out there.
right.
But okay. And the dude was in the same area within like 30 minutes of the place. It wasn't like he was like in Florida
And he
yelling at
like
how he was going to blow up
deliberately moved
Seattle.
there, did he not?
Yeah, he moved there to chase a CM, like to get close to a CM so he could fuck with him. And this was after 14 bans. Like, on a
Right.
side note, fuck that kid. Oh, he's only 17. It's
Yeah,
gonna ruin
he's
his
just
life.
being
No,
edgy.
it won't.
Moving across the country to harass employees of a game company is just being edgy. Fuck
It
off.
was like Deej or whoever, CM4 or somebody. And then my favorite
Right.
part was they were like, he's only 17. It's gonna ruin his life. And I was like, one, it's not going to. Two, it should, but sure.
Yeah.
No, unfortunately, it will not ruin this guy's life. He will not learn a lesson. He will
No.
consider himself a victim,
Right.
and he will go on to I don't know.
His record will get expunged, and then when he turns 18, he will probably do something.
Yeah, he'll show up 18, 19 years at some business or some company. He'll get arrested again. He'll shoot up an ice cream shop because they wouldn't give him his flavor anymore because they canceled it. And he was like, "How dare you? I pay your paychecks. I'm
Yeah,
basically your boss."
I could fuck up a Blizzard right now. You mentioned ice cream.
Oh man. But no, so like it's I went on a huge blocking spree because lately the past month or so has been a lot of like game dev crunch discourse and people talking about burnout and stuff and people giving people shit about it and with this kid getting sued by Bungie and then the things happening with the raid and then the things happening with this chat problem and all
Mm-hmm.
this. I am at a point where I just don't care. I've just been blocking people because if these are the people, if this is the way they're going to act, I don't care if down the road I want these people's support on my streams or on my game projects. I don't want these people in my community, and I'm not
Right.
going to sit here and just let that fester. Because God forbid if I went viral one day and a bunch of these people went to go look at my Twitter profile and they were like, yeah, this guy makes a video game. Let's go follow his game. And now I've got 200, 300 viewers who are all these people
Mm-hmm.
making death threats and saying like this, that, and the other. Like, no, you don't set foot in my community. I'll show you the door before you even get there.
Fair enough.
So, and they're never going to know who I am, so it doesn't even matter. And if I ever somehow get big enough that it matters, and a bunch of people start being like, why does this guy have all these people blocked from these communities, like a bunch of Destiny players and a bunch of this and a bunch of that? I'm going to be like, why do you think I blocked you guys?
Well,
You
that's the
think I
great
just
thing
went
is
and
you get to make that
randomly blocked
announcement that
people?
I've only blocked people that I've seen be assholes and that have demonstrated that
pieces of
they're
shit to
assholes in
people.
the past. So
That's all I
preemptive.
ever do. I
Right.
only ever block people if and not like one post, but like people who are like coming back and coming back to be like, I'm a piece of shit and I double down on it and I triple down on it and these people deserve to have death threats. Or people who are like, oh, I don't think we need to have burnout, but why can't they just work the Saturday? And then people will be like Dirty F and Hippie will be like, because it messes with our schedules, it messes with meetings, it messes with work-life balance, it causes burnout for some people. It's
Exactly.
literally crunch for some people. Like, there's no way around it. Some people are not going to be able to work that Saturday, or would have to work Monday through Friday to meet their normal work quota, and then they'll be there on Saturday because of this thing. It causes crunch 8 ways from Sunday. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And then they'll be like, yeah, but it's only like 2 weekends a year. And it's like, you don't understand how any of like, you don't understand this type of management. You don't understand waterfall management. You don't understand like, what's it called? Agile. You've not been in this type of line of work then, if that's how you feel about it. Because
Sure.
I know you, in your line of work, can't even flip onto a Saturday that easily. And you're not a 200-person studio. So, like, don't fucking tell me that you could just move everything around. Meetings could move,
Right.
milestones could change. Like, no, that's not how that works. Like, maybe like you said, if they picked a Saturday for the next raid 3 to 6 months out, sure, it's doable.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to do it now, and they made their decision the way they made it for a reason: to prevent crunch, prevent burnout, and for the employees' best interest. Because at the end of the day, we want our companies to take care of the employees. That's why we get mad at Activision. That's why we get mad at Blizzard. That's why we get mad at Ubisoft. That's why we have problems with these companies. We have problems with Unity for what they do. It's always about the people's experiences and utility, quality of life for people. Like,
And just
what you would want
think
from other
about
people.
the employees alone that have to figure out childcare for that
Oh, dude,
on a
it's a
weekend.
Yeah.
Childcare is already expensive as shit.
And it's not even like, yeah, well, yeah, that too. But like, but even if you said, okay, the next raid's going to be on a Saturday, and you told the staff today that the next raid will be out on March 21st of next year, and it's going to be on a Saturday. Even with 6 months warning, some people's lives are kind of fucked by that. Maybe
Mhm.
there's people who do a thing every Saturday. Maybe there's
Right.
people who cannot work Saturday because their spouse works Saturday and they have to be there for their kids. Maybe
Or
there's people
maybe
who
they have a
have,
second job.
like, it could be anything, and it's valid that they have these things that precludes them from working that Saturday because they agreed to a company schedule where they don't work that Saturday.
Right.
That was the whole point in the first place. They probably got the job on purpose to do that, or they got a second job based around the fact that they don't work Saturdays. Like, there's no amount of time I think you can give people where every single person would be okay with it, and that's
Sure.
fine. They shouldn't have to.
100%.
And that's the whole point of the argument about crunch and burnout is like, you it's sort of like an immutable characteristic of like a developer or a person working a schedule is like they may not be able to work that day, and there's no getting around that.
And it's a
I know
slippery
if
slope.
you,
You do it once, it becomes easier to force it on your employees every
well,
time
yeah,
moving
it's three
forward.
times. It's only 3 times a year. Then it's only 4 times a year, and then it's only every season, and then it's only
And it's only
every,
every other Saturday.
yeah, it's like it's only one Saturday a month, and it's like, okay, but what are we doing here? Like,
Mhm.
yep, it's frustrating to watch. Like, going into the game dev industry and watching that, like, there's so many people out there who are like, oh yeah, I'll donate to, like, and these are the people, like, some of these people, they donate to the Bungie campaigns, they donate to the charity causes, and they have similar politics to Bungie, and they agree with them on their positions. But when it comes down to like them getting all of a sudden a thing's not going exactly the way they want it, now it's a problem. And they
Right.
do this passive aggressive, like, I'm just saying, well, why can't we just do a little bit? And it's like, see,
Yeah.
just a little bit is the problem, because
Because
these are
your
the kinds of arguments that people make
personal
where it's like,
entertainment has been minorly inconvenienced.
well, yeah, and it's like you ask people morals, you'd be like, is stealing wrong? And they're like, yeah, and you're like, what about if you were starving and you needed it to survive? And they're like, well, then I could steal a little bit. And it's like, I'm not making the argument that stealing's bad, because I think there are situations where stealing is fine. If it was
Mhm.
like something ridiculous, like you're starving and there's a target. Target's not going to close because you stole a sandwich, but you won't starve in the street if you steal that sandwich. No, I mean,
Right.
we're talking about like extremes. But like, if your thing doesn't hold up in the extremes, then it doesn't hold up. If you can't tell me 100% of the time stealing is bad, or if you can't define the barriers and the systems and the situations that cause it to be good or bad, and you just say, well, maybe just this time, or maybe just that time, if you compromise on those things and you move off those positions, then I can't expect you to take those things seriously.
Mhm.
So when your position is like people shouldn't be, miserable and burnout and crunch, but maybe a little bit of crunch because I really like Cyberpunk, maybe a little bit of burnout because I really enjoy Rainbow Six Siege, maybe a little bit of crunch at Riot, just because I really like League of Legends. Maybe like 1 or 2 weekends of burnout. Maybe
Right.
only 2 employees have a mental breakdown
But
instead of the whole
but games
team.
they don't want to play, and they see other people doing what they're doing, they'll be the first piece and people like, oh,
Oh,
I can't believe they would
absolutely.
do something like that. I can't believe they would expect the crunch out of them.
First people to give Riot shit for the way they treat women in the industry, and then turn around and be like, "But I like Blizzard and I like Activision," and it's like, okay, you guys are all about it. Every time, I've seen people who say shit about like Bungie's accusations from a few years ago, and then they'll be like playing Diablo Immortal, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I love Activision Blizzard," and it's like, how do you feel about the stuff that happened with them? You said you don't play Destiny because a couple of girls said they were assaulted 2 years ago, and Bungie apologized, and you didn't
Mm-hmm.
like their apology. Why do you play an Activision Blizzard game? I'm not saying boycotting is an effective strategy, but you are, as the person who's not playing it, why then do you play a game from a studio who objectively has worse blood on their hands, literally? And they'll be like, I just didn't feel like the breast milk stealing was a big deal, and maybe that girl would have died anyway. And you're like,
Yeah, I get it. There he goes. I totally get it.
you're kidding me, right? What are
Yeah.
your morals even? What are your values even? You hold them so dearly, you throw fits over this stuff, and then you don't even know what they are. I don't know. That just bugs me in general, but that's not a Destiny thing. That's like everybody thing.
No, you're
But I saw
absolutely
a lot
correct.
of it on display on Twitter with Destiny this past week, and it was like badly timed because it was on the back of this game industry problem of a lot of people, a lot of devs being like, stop treating devs like shit. And then this happened at Bungie, and it was like, oh boy, it all came to one place.
Yep.
But yeah, oh man, I could go about this, but I
I
will
know
leave
you
it
could.
be because I think I would just end up running the same tracks that I've laid already.
Sure. And we see that a lot on this podcast. I mean, we just see just the same themes coming over, coming and going over and over and over again.
Yeah, and it's just a product of like being passionate about this stuff. Is like we're gonna end up remaking the case because
Of course.
it's a thing that we care about or whatever. Like I felt bad at the beginning of the show because we brought up the game design in Breath of the Wild, and when we start talking about actual game design mechanics and things like that, I get into it. So I was like, oh yeah, I have all kinds of things to say about this. And then after 10 minutes, I was like, okay, we're in like the opening crawl of like the quick headlines. I should probably shut up and we can move
You're
on.
fine. No, it's cool.
You just happen to catch me on a topic that I like to talk about, like the raw design mechanics or the player, the way you handle your player interactions and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Big fan of that stuff.
No doubt. I get it, man.
Yeah,
All right, let's move
no,
on.
these people are crazy.
Let's get down to wrapping things up here. So next up here we have upcoming game releases, and if you guys have been meaning to catch up on your back catalog, this is the week to do it. Especially for all you Xenogears 3 fans out there looking to dig into what will probably be a 150-hour plus game. We have a light release schedule this week, to say the least. So let's dig into it here. We have South of the Circle coming out on PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. That comes out August 3rd. Turbo Golf Racing. For all those Turbo Golf Racing fans out there that have been waiting for this, then now's your chance. Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and PC comes out August 4th. Yes.
I need to say this. Was it Turbo Golf Racing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I've been emailing the Turbo Golf Racing devs and telling them that I was going to hang them if they didn't get this game out faster. So I'm glad to hear that it's finally out.
Right.
I don't like people getting hurt, but I really needed my Turbo Golf Racing.
Well, I'm just glad you can return that rope to Lowe's now.
Home Depot. But close
I'm
enough.
sorry. Oh, God. You got the orange rope, not the blue rope.
Please don't tell me it's a thing that they sell.
Oh, I'm sure it is, dude.
Well.
When I worked at Lowe's back in the day, their in-house branded like 5-gallon buckets were like the thing, and then Home Depot did it. I forget who did it first, but then now it's like the thing. Like you walk into the store, there are just piles and piles and piles of just 5-gallon fucking buckets.
Oh yeah, I remember when I was at Home Depot. I remember they had the orange buckets, and it was like their thing. It was like they're orange, and I was like, but they're buckets, and they're like, but they're orange buckets, and I was like,
yeah, it's like,
okay, I get it,
but
it's marketing, but
bucket.
like. It's a bucket.
Right.
It's like, oh my god, I do that like at the pro desk. They have like orange rope. And it's like
I wouldn't be
rope,
surprised.
Pro rope, and it's like $10 extra. Oh my god. Sorry, I got excited about the golf racing.
We got it
What is
up.
it again? What is...
Turbo Golf Racing. I'm sorry. I'm sure someone worked hard on this game, but I'm sorry.
I forgot
Uh,
the terrible part. No, this isn't like an indictment of the game being bad or anything. It's
yeah,
just like a joke of the obscurity of it.
sure.
Turbo Golf Racing. All right.
Yeah. And then Recipe for Disaster comes out on PC August 5th. And ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for the upcoming game releases. So like I said, get out there, work on that back catalogs, and get some
Oh,
GameStop. I should take my own advice at some point here.
to be fair, I
Mhm.
would consider the PlayStation stuff coming as part of the upcoming releases because that all opens up like tomorrow, right? Or no, Tuesday. Yeah, tomorrow. Does it fall tomorrow?
Oh, the
Or
August games?
no, Tuesday. Tuesday would be the second.
Yeah.
Yeah, those should be available this Tuesday, right?
Sometime this week. Yeah, Tuesday sounds about right, but um
And those were what were those? Those were good titles this week, this
yeah,
month.
Tony Hawk,
Yep.
Little
Um.
Nightmares, and what was that third one? Yakuza Like a Dragon. That was the unique.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That was the unique
Okay.
Yakuza. That was kind of more like a turn-based RPG.
Right. So to be fair, your release week is a little bolstered if you have PlayStation Plus
It's true.
because there's, from my understanding, all three of those games are in their own right really good games. Um, I played Tony Hawk a long time ago, so obviously no idea how they hold up in the remaster. I heard good things about the remasters, but I didn't look. All I know is that Tony Hawk like died when they were like, "We're making a new Tony Hawk and it's an NFT game," and everybody was like, "Oh, why?"
Hmm.
um,
They were really
and
doing
then
that.
yeah, you didn't see that?
Oh, how did that get onto my
Um,
radar? I don't even want. I don't want to know.
I'll look it up. We can talk about it later. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's the new Tony Hawk game is all NFTs, if I'm
Jesus
not mistaken.
Christ.
Or maybe it was crypto. I think it was NFTs though. Yeah, it was NFTs because people were like disappointed that Tony Hawk in particular got involved in that because it's got his
Right.
name on it. And
I would not be shocked if that's something they back away from at this point.
yeah, Tony Hawk is building an NFT skate park in the metaverse,
Oh God.
is
All
what
right.
it
Well,
was.
enough of that shit.
Fun. Um, yeah, so uh, if Turbo Racing Golf isn't enough to whet your appetite for a week, then you can play Yakuza Like a Dragon, or you can play. I forgot the other two already. That's fine.
Little Nightmares and
Yeah, that
Yakuza
one.
Like a Dragon.
Yeah, Yakuza Like a Dragon, Little Nightmares, and
Tony Hawk, dude, are you all right?
I don't remember the last one.
Tony Hawk, little
Oh yeah, we were
yeah.
talking about Tony Hawk. God, yeah. Listen, it's been a draining episode having to yell about these people on
Well,
Twitter.
we're gonna make sure you get some great Gatorade for the next episode.
Yeah. No, so there's plenty there. Like if you've never played Little Nightmares, it's like a atmospheric platforming kind of game with some puzzle solving.
Hmm?
Yakuza's turn-based RPG that's set in a great universe. The Yakuza universe is really cool, and the Tony Hawk 1 and 2 games are classics and are worth revisiting if you've played them before or never played them in the first place. And if you got a PlayStation, play those. If you don't have a PlayStation, walk down to your local Walmart, slap some money on the counter, and get a PlayStation.
Yeah,
Get some Plus.
like you
Play some
do.
Skate. Play some Skate game. Not Skate game. It's a different game, but it's a Skate game. And then yeah, Turbo Golf Racing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Next segment here. Well, let's get into our weekend gaming history. Big juicy list this week. It's the way we like them. So we
I'm gonna be
had
old, aren't I?
what's up?
I'm gonna be old, aren't I?
You're gonna feel real old on this one. So we had Pikmin 3 released on the Wii U 9 years ago. Castlevania Harmony of Despair came out on the Xbox 360 12 years ago. Doom 3 came out on the PC 18 years ago. Silent Hill 3 on the PS2 came out 19 years ago. Comic Zone for the Sega Genesis. I remember playing this the first time on my friend's Sega channel. What a weird setup that was. But yeah, 27 years ago on that one. Earthworm Jim. Funny story. My nickname in college was Girthworm Jim. Sega Genesis, 28 years ago. Mortal Kombat came out on the arcades 30 years ago. Mario Paint. Beloved Mario Paint came out on the SNES 30 years ago. I don't think he's going to recover for that one, guys. And then the Punch-Out reissue. After Mike Tyson got himself into a little trouble, Nintendo re-released Mike Tyson's Punch-Out as just regular Punch-Out. That came out 32 years ago. And then Super Mario World on the Game Boy, 33 years ago.
Wow.
I guess was it just Super Mario then? I think it was just Super Mario.
I think it was that must be Super Mario Land, right? Is what they
Yeah,
called
something
it.
like
That
that.
one with like the bouncing ball
Right.
ability. Yeah,
I didn't like that at all.
that's on your background actually.
There it is.
Yeah,
Donkey
that's on the Game
Kong.
Boy that they're playing.
Yep. Um,
Um.
then last but not
Oh no,
least,
never mind. That's Donkey Kong. I'm
yeah,
wrong.
that's why
We
it's
the one you showed that as the background for the those Game Boys that they're making that store the games and everything,
oh
all
the
that stuff.
Analog Pocket. Yeah, yeah.
They had Super Mario Land on one of their screens. Is what it
Right, right.
was.
And then
Um.
23 years ago, the Neo Geo Pocket Color launched. Um, I have mine here. I actually have two. I have this one. This is the one I put in with a backlit, or yeah, the actual backlit screen, and then I have a frontlit version too before they actually came out with that backlit kit. So yeah, those are good times. I love this system. It's so under the radar, but so worth getting. If you
Never
have,
touched it.
it's
Let's
good.
look into it.
Great little set of games. Graphically, it's kind of right in between like Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color. But they had some great titles on there. A lot of fighting games, obviously, because it's published by SNK.
Right.
But yeah, they had a lot of good titles there. So that's
Two
all we've got.
questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
One, um, go back through the list of games real quick. There was one that you said that Mike Tyson's Punch Out got redone as just Punch Out.
Yes.
Was that as a result of like a thing that happened? Was that the ear biting incident or something?
No, this is long before. So Mike Tyson got
Long
himself
before,
into
right?
a little
Yeah.
trouble. I don't know if we're allowed to say the word on social or on Twitch, so I'm not going to. We can talk about it after the show. But yeah, he got himself into a little
Sure.
trouble. Ended up doing
Sure.
some jail time, and Nintendo basically had to rebrand the game as just Punch Out. So there's two versions of the game. There's Mike Tyson's Punch Out, where you fight Mike Tyson at the end, and then
Hmm.
Punch Out, where you fight a character called Mr. Dream at the end. So
Okay, I remember the Mr. Dream.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, that's
so
funny.
mhm.
Interesting. The other thing I was going to mention was actually a separate conversation I was having with a friend of mine today. He had never seen that there was a. You'll have to vouch for this because I don't know the legitimacy of his statements.
Mhm.
But he said that there was a Game Boy that was hard to find. It was like a Game Boy Light. It was
Yes,
a traditional Game Boy Pocket, but like with the light's back screen
yes,
that came later. Okay,
yeah. I actually
interesting.
have one right here.
Do you
So
know? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
so I imported it from Japan. It didn't come with a battery door. That's what I was trying to 3D print. So I did 3D print a battery door for it.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so I don't. Let me see if I can get some batteries in it real quick, and I can demo it here. So if you know what Indiglo is on, like, was it Timex watches?
Hmm.
It did that. So yeah, they're not. I wouldn't say they're rare, but they are hard to find, obviously, in the United States because they were never released in the United States. But yeah, it's kind of like a Game Boy
Gotcha.
Pocket frame. Let me see if I can find a game for it quick. The old
Yeah,
blow
because
test.
we had so I was talking to Lionheart and
Hmm.
my friend, we call him Fusco. We were talking I was talking to them, and um, Lionheart had said that he didn't know there was a Target edition Game Boy Advance.
Yes, there is a
And he was like,
Target and a Toys R Us one. The Target one is like bright red and has a Target logo on it, which I was like, why would anyone want that? But now it's like big in collector circles. Um,
yeah,
but there's also a Toys R Us one, which I don't have on me at the time at right now. It's in my work
yeah,
bag actually. But that one has a Toys R Us logo on it. I figured because Toys R Us is no longer around anymore, I snagged up one of those
sure.
and I put in a no solder kit so that it's reversible.
Oh, nice, nice.
Um,
Um, yeah.
yeah.
So he was like, what is this? Like, where do I get it? And then that's when Fusco was like, I recently found out my life was a lie because I told everyone I have all the different types of Game Boys, and then I find out there's a Game Boy Light, which is a
Mhm.
Game Boy Pocket with a light screen.
Yep.
And I had never seen that one either because when I was growing up, I had Game Boy and then Pocket, and then was it Advance,
Hmm. Well, Game
and
Boy Color
then
then
the
Advance,
DS.
right?
Game Boy Color, yeah.
Hmm.
So I had a very no, okay. So I didn't have the original Game Boy, but I think someone in my family did. Maybe like an aunt or someone weird had
Hmm.
one, like the big brick.
Hmm.
And then
I
I
got
got
one
a
up there
Pocket,
somewhere.
and then I got a Color,
Hmm.
and then I went to the Advance, and then the DS Lite, and down the line. and I had never seen the Game Boy Pocket with like the light screen like that. And he sent
Sure.
me a picture of it, and I was like, oh, holy shit, look at that. That's weird. Not weird, but like a thing I'd never seen, I guess.
Right. So here, yeah,
That
here
was
it is, and
cool.
this is going to be probably hard to pick up on camera because green screen. Yeah. So I'll
Sure.
put some pictures of it in the Discord. But yeah, this is the Game Boy Light, which is like
Hmm.
you said, it's a Game Boy Color, or not. I'm sorry, Game Boy Pocket. But what it does is you have like the on off, and then you can slide it over to the light, and which is nice because you can determine like you can turn it off and on as you need to. It doesn't like reset the game or anything
Right.
like that because back in
Oh
the
yeah,
day,
yeah.
hardware was just like that. Um,
Right.
but yeah, it's pretty cool. I have like the 3D printed battery door on it. I'm gonna eventually reshell this. You can finally get new shells for these. This one's like a champagne color. That shell doesn't exist, so I'm kind of holding out for that just to get it because I like this color. But
Yeah, I
you can
think that's
get
exactly what he sent me.
yeah.
That color.
So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
funny.
I really like this thing, and I had to get one because it's again a piece of history that was only released in Japan. So yeah, definitely one of my favorite pieces here.
Okay, that explains why I've never seen it because he didn't even know it existed, and I was like,
Mhm,
dude, I've never seen it. And I've seen like the Game Boy like micro thing. I've seen a bunch of other random little offshoot Game Boy things,
mhm.
but I've never seen that one.
See, I have a Game Boy Micro sitting around here. I have the Famicom Micro, which is like I think one of the more sought after ones now. And I happened to see it at a game store, 2005, 2006. I'm like, this would be perfect to play Chain of Memories and at work,
Hmm.
and have no one bother me with it. And
Good plan. I agree with that
absolutely
plan.
picked it up for $40. That thing goes for like bucket money now. It's like on eBay now. Let me see if I can find out.
Yeah, that's wild.
They have a mono micro that goes for a shit ton of money, especially complete in box.
Yeah, it's
Um,
funny. When I first met Leisha, her little brother had a camouflage color micro,
mhm.
and
Yeah, they came with the face plates.
I'm pretty sure it got beat to hell and got thrown out or something.
I believe
So
it.
that's
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, they came with like interchangeable face plates and stuff, and you can get new face plates now. Like people have been making them
That's cool.
third party. But yeah, so they have one here, a Game Boy Micro Famicom, $190. Not even with a charger. It's just the game console itself. Um,
Yeah.
159, 186. So I mean, it's yeah, you're doing numbers up there with those. Let me see if I can find the. So there's oops. There's a Final Fantasy Dawn of Souls micro. Where the hell is it? Am I even going to find
Oh,
it now?
huh.
Um, no, it wasn't. It was I think Final Fantasy 4. That one
Okay.
out of box console by itself, $270. But that one has Yoshitaka Amano art all over it. It's phenomenal looking.
Wow.
But yeah, that one's a hard piece to get. I'll get again. I think that one was not released in the United States. Complete in box, I'm seeing $599. Sealed, $1,480.
Right.
So,
Well, it's like, what was it? Let me see what I can find. There was, I follow a collector on Twitter who collects like Final Fantasy stuff,
mhm.
and she finds the wildest shit that I never even knew existed sometimes. Um, she found a Final Fantasy 14 Heavensward limited edition PlayStation Vita.
Hmm.
I don't even know why that exists.
Why does it exist?
Right? I was like, you're kidding me, but nope. She posted a picture. It's got Kane on the back and some house like clan work stuff, and it says Heavensward in the Dead Center. And I was like, you're fucking kidding me. Very rare. Not many were made. Sold in Japan in 2015. I was like, why?
Dude,
Why does that
Japan
exist?
gets so many like Japan only consoles that are incredible. But again, like, were they planning on putting 14 on the Vita? Like,
Well, I think you can remote play using the Vita,
that's true.
and that's probably what they were looking at was like people can remote play. But like, why would you remote play 14 on a Vita? I don't know. It seemed wild. Maybe they thought like maybe the Vita's remote play system made it for like a better controller experience than
Yeah.
like trying to use the DualShocks or something.
Oh,
But
here's one
yeah,
that's an
I saw her post that and I was like, what is this?
here's one. It's a Final Fantasy 10 back plate. I don't know if it's just the
Yep.
skin
Oh, if it's like a plate, yeah.
or if
That I couldn't tell you.
it's not really giving me a much there. But yeah, the Heavens Ward. No, this is a Japan only. They did a Dragon Quest Builders one. Again,
Oh
I don't
wow.
think there was a Dragon Quest Builders on the Vita.
I don't know. I
That one, oh, that one comes with like a little headphone jack cap. That's a slime. You stick it in the headphone jack, and it just sticks on your on your Vita. That's pretty wild, huh?
headphone jack. What is that?
I don't know.
Is that like a thing that does the thing? What is that all about?
Ask Apple.
Ask Apple. Oh, I thought, dude, I get mad because I have the newest Android phone and it doesn't have one, and I'm like,
Yep.
it's one of those things I've gotten used to because I have Bluetooth headphones, so I don't really care. But it was one of those like, I don't know, just weird. Weird to see
I
it go
know.
away, I guess.
All right. Well, I have to pee really bad, so we're gonna end the show. But yeah, make sure you catch me over on Twitter, Game Dude Retro. Definitely be posting a lot on there lately, and of course, you know where I'm at on Twitch, Retro Game Dude on TikTok as well. And so SuperScope podcast will be back next Sunday, of course, and then we have the Tuesday and Wednesday streams. Looking to do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on Tuesday, and then Wednesday, if all the stars align, we'll do the Game Boy Color mod, and then of course Jackbox on Saturday. Everyone is invited to come play. We always have a good time. Always gets a lot out of hand, and that's what that's what we like. So make sure you join the Discord. It's in the About section on my Twitch page as well. So that's all we have for this week. But again, we'll see you then next week. Have a great week, everyone.